Good morning. It is a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I am Glenn Clark. He is Griffin. We've got much to do on a Monday. Of course, big news yesterday. Would have been nice if it happened before I did 3 hours of radio in the afternoon, including a part where Rita and I were screaming about, or I was screaming about how
John Rahm's comeback?
Yeah, that was the big one. Where I was screaming about how the Ravens hadn't done anything this offseason. I'm going to have a greater conversation about the reflection of this at some point. But obviously it's something. Something. Much needed something the Baltimore Ravens have done. Coming up, we are going to check in with our friend Brian McFarland. Of course, salary cap guru for Russell Street Report. We will have him explain how this works with the Ravens doing a contract structured so uniquely to have base salary down, how voidable years work, what the long-term penalty is, all those types of things. He'll join us in a bit. Also coming up this morning, we're going to check in with Farr. The last time we saw Odell Beckham play, it was with the L.A. Rams, and, he looked pretty good, which is weird because he hadn't looked pretty good for a year and a half ahead of that. But we're going to figure out what made it work, and is it possible it could work again here in Baltimore? Farr, Rams radio analyst, is going to check in with us, former Super Bowl champion. And Jeremy Conn will join us like he does every Monday. In a few minutes, we're scheduled to be joined by Ken Francis, who, of course, is Lamar Jackson's business partner on the Complete Gym. But he says
the entire gym.
Is that what it is? The entire gym?
The entire gym.
Why did I think it was
he's the CEO.
Why did I think it was the Complete Gym? I don't know what that was.
Well, it's the entire. It's the complete entire.
All right. Here, look.
Gym.
It's irrelevant. Which one is it? The entire gym.
It is the entire.
The entire gym.
Yes.
It's gonna go well. We'll talk to
he's the CEO.
Ken Francis in a bit. Thank you. Now, what you came here for is this thing right behind me.
Ooh.
Lightning, this is what you came for. Is that what the lyric? Lightning strikes every time. So what's the first word? This is what you came for. Lightning strikes every time she moves. I don't remember the deal.
I can't remember it.
61% was what the number read the other day.
It's bleak on Friday.
The Lamar-O-Meter is brought to you by Glory Days Grill. And today, I'm giving you the opportunity to win a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. You tell me where you think the Lamar-O-Meter should read after this dramatic news and why. A lot of you struggling with that part of it. Just getting some numbers back. I hear you. But there is a two-part to this. Now, let me take a minute here. I'm writing about Odell Beckham, and we'll have more time during the course of the show to talk about Odell Beckham specifically. This portion of the program is the other side of the conversation, which is how does Odell Beckham impact Lamar Jackson? Most of you seem to think it impacts it significantly, understandably so. Not only were they on a FaceTime call pretty quickly after the deal got done, you've probably seen the video already today. They went out clubbing last night to celebrate. I don't know. I guess maybe they're both in South Florida. I have no idea where the two of them are. They got together last night, and they were out somewhere enjoying now being quote-unquote teammates.
Oh.
But although, of course, we don't know that yet, we have reason to think that's the case. There's no way around it, right? Like, that type of stuff, to me, is more impactful even than the news of the signing. The news of the signing alone, you could sort of lay out, hey, look, whoever's playing quarterback, they need somebody better to throw the football to, and Odell Beckham might be that. So even if you thought the Ravens were prepared to move on to a rookie quarterback or prepared to move on to, Mac Jones in a trade with the Patriots, you would say, but that guy would need a better player to throw the football to. So that signing alone doesn't tip the scales. What I would say is that the way the Ravens structured the deal certainly makes you say they sure as F should not be doing this for Mac Jones. They sure as F should not be doing this for a rookie quarterback that may or may not be good. The idea that you're going to put in voidable years and spread cap hits out over years. Clearly, If you didn't think it was going to be Lamar Jackson, you just take the cap hit right now. You're keeping the cap space in order to make sure that you have Lamar Jackson. The Ravens are very much operating under that feeling. The question becomes, more appropriately, if you believe that this has been done in order to appease Lamar Jackson, the real question becomes, is that because they think they can still get him signed long term, or they're just trying to convince him to actually show up this year and play under the tag if he doesn't agree to a long-term deal? And that Odell Beckham could be the difference in him saying, all right, I'll acquiesce, I'll show up. Don't have those answers. Don't know. But certainly everything that we've seen so far would suggest Lamar Jackson intends to play football with Odell Beckham in Baltimore this season. The Ravens have always intended for Lamar Jackson to be their quarterback this season. So those two maths put together will indeed lead to the highest reading that we've ever seen in Lamar-O-Meter history. Lamar-O-Meter. I did it the other way around. See what I did there?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
It started at 61% over the weekend.
Are we gonna get a B minus right here? Whoa, above 80. Oh my goodness. Is that gonna be 90?
90%.
Holy cow.
90% is the number. 90% is the new Lamar-O-Meter reading. 90%. A 29% upgrade. Now look, the plane still has to be landed. That's the reality here. The plane still has to be landed. Of course, remember, the Lamar-O-Meter update is not about him signing long-term. It's simply about him being the quarterback come week 1 of the NFL season. If this was about him signing a long-term deal, I still think I'd have the number somewhere in the realm of 64%, somewhere in that neighborhood. It's not that. It's about this year. And with Odell Beckham being signed for exactly 1 year, some of you that have pointed out, like, there's still the possibility that Lamar and Odell Beckham could play together for this season and both go after that. Yep, very much in the realm of possibility. Very much in the realm. But the over-the-top nature of the reaction to it last night, I would argue I probably could go above 90%. I'm trying to be – I always try to be fair, and I always try to make this more mathematic or scientific. Is mathematic a word or mathematical?
Yeah, mathematic.
Is it mathematic or mathematical?
Mathematic works.
You don't know that. You're just saying things now. This is what happens when someone has no idea if the answer they're giving you is correct. Mathematic works. You don't know. You're not a language expert.
Yeah, I guess
You're no
should
linguist.
Use mathematical.
Yeah, mathematical. Exactly right. Or scientific. I can combine the two of them together and make it one term.
Mathetific.
Mathetific. I do still think there's room in there that the plane has to be landed. And what happens now if another team bowls the Ravens over in an offer? Are the Ravens really going to sit there and say, well, we've got Lamar for 1 year, and with all due respect, a wide receiver that hasn't had a 600-yard season since 2019? We can't listen to your offer of many first-round picks? I still have to leave room in there to say that there is a lot of unknown that can still play out until the plane is landed. I think right now all signs point towards Lamar Jackson saying, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play with Odell Beckham next season. Beyond the signing, the FaceTime, and more importantly, this video of them going out in the club. By the way, before I saw that, the number was going to be somewhere around 84%. Because one of the things I was going to say is, just if the Ravens believing that this helps land the plane and Lamar deciding that it helps land the plane are two different things. Lamar actually going out and partying with the guy is pretty noteworthy as far as his interest in playing football with Odell Beckham this season. What Odell Beckham can be, Whether or not this ultimately proves to work, I can't answer any of those questions. Not yet. But I do think it's reasonable to say that the evidence suggests that these dudes want to play football together. So the most likely scenario is they'll figure out a way to do that. How that works? Does Lamar demand more for one season? I don't know. I've had a few people use the phrase, the Ravens are going all in for 1 year. If this is what all in looks like, I guess nobody else is good. I know we've always had an affliction in this town of when we hear someone's name, if we're familiar with them, we freak out about it. We've got to be a little bit more honest about what Odell Beckham is. I think Odell Beckham can prove to be a helpful piece. When I write this column today, and I'm going to have time to talk about it during the course of the morning, you're going to see that I am more positive than negative about Odell Beckham. I think it's somewhere between necessary and good. I think to pretend like there isn't a bunch of unknowns still is kind of foolish on our part. I think to believe it's not relevant that every other team in the NFL had the opportunity to sign Odell Beckham to a similar amount of money, and every single one of them said, yeah, nah, we're good, is relevant. That doesn't mean the Ravens got it wrong or they made a mistake. I think they needed a marginalized version of Odell Beckham can very much still be an upgrade for the Baltimore Ravens. But when we use phrases like all in, well, I think signing real players would have been an all-in type of move. That to me would have been how you go. I don't think there was an option. And Paul asked me, he just asked it. He didn't say it. Paul from Movie Lando. Assuming Lamar is back at 23 in light of the OBJ signing and the void years that have been tacked on, do you see the Ravens taking the Eagles' Howie Roseman tactic and going all in for the season and making more short-term moves? Are you saying that next up would be DeAndre Hopkins? Is that I don't know what else qualifies as all in at this point. I don't know what else is out there to be done. No, in fairness, the Eagles didn't pull off the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade until right before the season began, if I remember correctly. It was well into the summer, and you don't know who else might become available. And maybe I would probably say that's not smart. I don't think the Ravens roster-wise are quite as close as the Eagles were. They did also make the A.J. Brown trade draft weekend. If there's an A.J. Brown caliber player that is available, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to DeAndre Hopkins, but let's be fair, man. Like, we know the difference between where A.J. Brown was in his point in his career and where DeAndre Hopkins is at his point. I'd still take him, for the record, but A.J. Brown was a guy that they were going to be able to build around for years to come. That wasn't a move that was made to go all in for 1 year. They traded for A.J. Brown to try to keep him around for a long time. If those guys are available, I don't know, maybe. I would still never make any decision with the idea being we don't think we're going to have our quarterback past this season. I mean, I'd never do that. The part of the field that matters is quarterback. I'd always prioritize that over absolutely anything else. Always. But, if they're at a place where Lamar Jackson says, come hell or high water, I'm gone after this year. I'll play for you because you got me Odell Beckham. I'll play for you. But after this year, forget it. I don't know, maybe you make another move or two. I just would need to know more about what's out there. To be fair, we didn't know the A.J. Brown thing was possible. I don't know. I don't know what that would be. But again, the number moves, 90%. That's what it is today. It's brought to you by Glory Days Grill. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. All right, joining us now here on GCR. This man has been someone that came into our lives a couple of weeks ago. He is now a business partner of Lamar Jackson as they have a product called the Entire Gym. He is the CEO of the entire gym. He is Ken Francis, and he is with us this morning here on GCR. Ken, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to catch up with you. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Hey, Glenn, I appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, it's good to chat with you. Ken, if you could, this is our first opportunity to catch up. I'm wondering if you could take me back. We don't know a whole lot about you and your story. Can you tell us a little bit about, where you come from, your background, how the entire gym became a thing, and how you got hooked up with Lamar Jackson?
Okay, where do you want me to start, man?
Anywhere, the beginning. Tell us where you. Give me who is Ken Francis? If I was doing a documentary about Ken Francis, where would I need to start?
Well, who is Ken Francis? That's a great question. I'm the average person who just wants to live the American dream. I saw a void in the fitness space, trying to balance family, work, and living a healthy lifestyle. The pandemic revealed how much a portable gym is needed in the fitness industry, and not just a portable gym, but a portable gym that gives you the real elements of an actual gym by utilizing dumbbells, free weights, resistance band, elastic band, and a fully functional weight bar, along with a jump rope, agility ladder, removable Bluetooth speakers that connects to your phone or iPad, a universal cell phone holder, and a workout mat, all compact in a convenient carrying case on wheels. That's what the entire gym is.
So Ken, how did you get hooked up? So you have this idea, right? How did you get hooked up? Lamar Jackson's one of the most famous human beings on the face of the planet. Obviously, I don't know if you've been in Baltimore, but around here we live and breathe every time he sneezes. That's how significant he is. How did you get hooked up with Lamar for this partnership to come about?
Well, we're both South Florida guys, so we ran into each other a few times. But we finally had the opportunity to sit down. Lamar has a restaurant called Play Action.
Yep.
It's a soul food restaurant in Pompano Beach, Florida. And at the time, my product was a prototype. I introduced it to him and his team, and the rest was history. Right away, Lamar got involved with the development of our product, and where we was able to add items that are beneficial to athletes and average fitness consumers. Like, for example, he was very big on making sure that we had an agility ladder. He wanted heavier weights to implement the ball bearings into the dumbbells to assist with ab workouts, just to name a few.
So this is interesting to me because this is not a story of like, you've known him for forever. He maybe felt obligated to you or something like that. You really just went in and did like an elevator pitch, and Lamar Jackson said, "Dude, I love this. I'm on board."
Yeah, similar. I mean, we've seen each other around. We're both South Florida guys,
okay.
So we ran into each other a few times. But we had the opportunity to really sit down and got into the details of the product and introduce him to the product physically, have him work out with it. And, he had some things, some inputs that he would like to add on to it and things like that. So it's not just a run-in. We actually knew each other before that.
Okay, so it was like a friend of a friend type of scenario, or just like we in Baltimore we call it Smaltimore, right? Like everybody just kind of knows each other somehow. Is it sort of like that in South Florida?
Not necessarily, because like you said, Lamar is somebody that it doesn't really is very accessible to get to, So it's kind of like we knew each other, but not in details like that.
Okay, I understand. I understand what it is that you're saying. Ken Francis is with us. It's called The Entire Gym. So Ken, again, saying somebody likes it. Lamar Jackson's done very little in the realm of, promoting, in the realm of being a spokesperson for products. How did it work out for you to get him to come on board and be a part of this thing? Because it's rare, right? Like major national companies have not been able to land the big fish when it comes to getting Lamar Jackson to be their guy.
Yeah, you can say that. Well, he saw the importance of our gym, and it's a very unique gym. He liked it right away. The concept, especially during the pandemic, gym equipment and all gyms are shut down nationwide. So he saw how important it was to have a portable gym that utilizes the actual ability of an actual physical gym. He has everything. It is portable, and it's the only portable gym basically in the world that allows you to have dumbbells with free weights, resistance band, the whole 9 yards. Basically, there's nothing that you can do at a normal gym that you're not able to do with our physical product. So he saw interest in that right away, and he jumped on board.
And obviously, he was more than willing. He was putting it out there at a time where everybody is, again, living and dying over everything that Lamar Jackson is talking about at the moment. You guys are able to capitalize significantly on that interest. How much of that was fascinating to you, Ken? Like the idea of, hey, it's one thing. It's always going to matter to have Lamar Jackson be the face of what it is that we're doing with the entire gym. But right now, when like Lamar Jackson tweets out an eyeball emoji, there's a million people that are trying to dissect it. How much more valuable might it have been to have him on board right now where everyone is freaking out about anything that Lamar might say or do?
Yeah, that just speaks to Lamar. He's a great guy. And anyone on and off the field would tell you the same thing about Lamar. If you ever came into contact with him, man, he would tell you the same exact thing. He's a perfect first-class guy. He will treat the janitor the same way he treats the president, and with the same respect. So like I said, man, he's one hell of a guy, and we're glad to have him on board.
I have no doubt that that's true. He's Ken Francis. He's the CEO of the entire gym, business partners with Lamar Jackson. He's with us here on GCR. Ken, how has that partnership evolved? Like, how, on a day-to-day basis, involved are you guys, with the product as partners? Like, what does that look like now moving forward?
Well, he's very hands-on. And right now we're in production stage. We're planning to launch this summer. Feel free to go to our website, www.theentiregym.com. You can also find us on social media platforms at The Entire Gym. Everything is at The Entire Gym. So right now, Lamar will be training. He'll be using the product a lot. So you guys will be seeing the product out there more as the summer goes on, as we close into football season.
You said we're going to be seeing the product more. We're going to be seeing it more here in Baltimore. Do you have any inside information for us, Ken? Can we be comfortable that we're going to be seeing the entire gym here this summer in Baltimore specifically?
In Baltimore? Now, that you would have to ask Lamar. He's a very private person, man. Yeah, you have to ask him that. But he will be, like I said, you follow him on social media, man, you will be seeing the product a lot more with Lamar. Whether it's in Baltimore or not, that's not up to me. That's up to Eric and Lamar. So they'll figure those things out.
Boy, from your lips to God's ears, by the way, Ken. We joke about that, obviously, and I know you've already said this story that came out that you were talking to teams, completely untrue, is what you told ESPN. Is there anything that like you could say could be misconstrued that people thought that was the case? What did you make of that when that story came out? That people were saying that you were calling teams and acting like you were Lamar's agent.
What was that?
The story that came out a couple weeks ago that I know you denied when ESPN reached out to you, that it came out that you had been calling teams. Do you know where that came from, Ken? Can you understand that at all, or do you think that came completely out of thin air?
Yeah, well, with the media, they're trying to create a narrative. But when it comes to contract and negotiation, man, I cannot speak on Lamar's behalf. That is between Lamar and Eric DaCosta. I have nothing to do with that, So when the story came out, it was a shock to me, but it's not true at all. I never tried to negotiate for Lamar. We're pitching a product, our product, the entire gym. So we've been trying to get it out there. It's been seen by a lot of people. So if anything came before about contract negotiation, man, it's not true at all.
Can I ask, have you been pitching the product to NFL teams at all? Like, has that been something that maybe has happened? You've been trying to work with the team and somebody else heard that and said, oh, what's he working for Lamar? Like, has that been part of the process?
Yes, correct. And that might have been where the information got a little twisted.
Okay.
I have pitched the product to a few NFL teams in effect to partnership. Yes.
Have you had any reception from teams or other players, things like that? Have you had other partnership possibilities that have maybe come along?
Yes. We have a few right now that's pending with I currently have one right now with a retired NFL veteran. He's a Hall of Famer.
Oh.
He's a great friend of mine. His name is Isaac Bruce. I'm sure you guys heard of him.
I've definitely heard of Isaac Bruce. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure you guys heard of him. Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. He's part of this as well. We have some current players right now that we're negotiating with as well. So yes, so we will be letting some news out later on in the summer. Some big news about the entire gym.
That is significant, obviously. That's a really significant name. in order to have out there. There's no doubt about that. Ken Francis with us here on GCR. Again, the entire gym, he and Lamar Jackson have partnered up on that. So Ken, is the goal, I guess the thing becomes, is the goal for you to sort of own the product independently? Is the goal for you guys to try to sell it to someone who says, I don't, this is where I don't understand the business part of this. Like, you've created this thing. Is your goal to let someone else handle it? Is your goal for you to be, the ones that you build up and you create a whole new company out of this?
Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. We created it from scratch, and we want to own this company. We're going direct to consumers. We're getting ready to partner. Right now, we're negotiating with Dick's Sporting Goods. We're going to do a full rollout with Dick's Sporting Goods coming in fall. So right now, we want to keep ownership of our company and just partner with the right partners. Whether it's a team or investors, whoever it may be, but we're looking to kind of branch off, but keep ownership, not sell right away.
It makes sense. It makes all the sense in the world. Can I ask you, Ken, as far as the future for you guys are concerned, do you sense that Lamar is interested in the business side of this as well? Like, do you get the feeling that not just being a spokesperson, not just being someone that represents you, that the business side of this and being, obviously you're the CEO, but whatever that role might be as a partner, do you get the sense that he's interested in that as well?
Oh, of course, 100%. Lamar is hands-on with the business side of things. Like, that's what we first discussed at the restaurant where we met. Listen, Lamar didn't want to just endorse a product. He's co-founder. He helped me create it, develop it, from scratch. So he's not just an endorser of the product. He's actually part of the company to watch it grow on the business side of it as well, not just to endorse the product.
That's fast.
He's co-founder for a reason.
It's you know why that's fascinating to us, Ken, is because like the fact that he is working as his own agent, the fact that he is handled things, like it's the side of this. Like, I think we're learning more about how interested he is in business as a whole. Like, he is a really, for people that think of him as just a football player, I think we're learning he's a really fascinating dude, and I think this adds a layer of it to us. Like, he is interested in much bigger things than just being a football player.
Yeah, of course. Lamar is more than that, man. He has businesses, like I said. One of them is a soul food restaurant. He has play action. He has his clothing line, apparel line. He has a lot going for him outside of football. He's great on the business side of things. He's just that he's not out as much, because he's a very private person. So you don't really know a lot, but he's involved in a part of a lot of businesses outside of football as well.
That's fascinating. That is really fascinating. All right, if Ken, can I ask you a question? If you had to guess, do you get the sense that Lamar would be super excited about lining up with Odell Beckham and playing football next season?
Would it be excited? I mean, who wouldn't be excited to play alongside Odell? Now, is he going to? That's up to Lamar and Eric DeCosta again, man. That's
right. They got to make that work. They got to make that work. I get it.
They got to make it work,
If we were, hypothetically, if you were to advise me, if I were to ask you, let's just say that you knew someone who put together a meter every day. And this is, Ken, I hope you understand, we are living and dying over Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Like, we are panicked on a day-to-day basis. If I were to say, hey, what do you think the chances are that Lamar will be the Ravens quarterback next season? Could I get you to venture a guess for me?
The chances?
Yeah.
The thing is, right, I have personally never heard Lamar speak negatively about Coach Harbaugh or Eric DeCosta. As far as I'm concerned, he has utmost respect for those guys.
That's huge.
The Baltimore Ravens is a first-class organization. I personally feel like they will do the right thing, but it's up to them. Lamar loves the city of Baltimore and all of his fans, and his number one priority is to win the Super Bowl for who he plays for and an amazing fan base. But again, it's up to Eric DeCosta and the Baltimore Ravens.
That's fascinating.
And
man.
Lamar to sit down and kind of figure out, the next move, whether they're going to do what's right by him or, So it's kind of up in the air. But, I mean, who wouldn't love to see that, right?
I think that's no. Oh my God, who wouldn't love to see that? But Ken, I hope you know, this is going to determine how the rest of our year goes. We are going to be as a city either jubilant or apoplectic for the rest of the year. That's how significant your business partner has been with us. All right, Ken, one more time. You go ahead, please, the plugs, where people can find out more about the entire gym.
Yes, feel free to visit theentiregym.com on our website. All social media platforms is at The Entire Gym. Please feel free to reach out to us on there, follow us. Send me an email. We launch this summer. We're going to have some more exclusive details coming up of when we launch, who we launch it with. We're going to have special prize giveaways for certain people who buy our products. And it's not just a fitness product. We also have apparels that go along with it as well, so you workout in gears. So, again, it's www.theentiregym.com and at The Entire Gym on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it.
He is Ken Francis. Ken, appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Best of luck moving forward. Hopefully, we're fingers crossed we'll see you here with Lamar in the fall. Hopefully that's the case, that you're going to be making trips up to Baltimore with the entire gym. We will continue to keep our fingers crossed about that. Enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for doing this.
All right, I appreciate it.
That's Ken Francis with us. The Entire Gym is the product. And, that's interesting. There's a couple of things in there. I know a lot of you would say, hey, that ended up being kind of an infomercial. That's the way these things work. When we want to talk to somebody, we offer them the opportunity that we will let them plug their product. We've done that forever. When we do that, when we were trying to get things worked out with Lamar last year, it was because we wanted to offer him the opportunity to plug his children's book. But the questions that were in there that I think matter, one, I am willing to believe. Let me take a step back. I am absolutely willing to believe I'm glad that he didn't balk at the question that I asked. I always thought the thing that kind of made the most sense was that Ken Francis was calling teams, mentioning that Lamar Jackson was his partner, and trying to get them to buy in on a product. That, to me, made way more sense than this guy that's not qualified at all is somehow representing himself to be Lamar Jackson's agent. He says that's what he thinks happened. He was calling teams regarding the entire gym, talking about how he works with Lamar Jackson, and somehow that was misconstrued as the teams believing that he was calling them to negotiate for Lamar Jackson. Now, again, would he be inclined to lie about that? I guess. I don't know how we say this politely. There's nothing about that conversation that came off to me like Ken Francis is someone who's looking to represent Lamar Jackson in contract negotiations. I mean, I could be misreading a person entirely. But that conversation does not read like that dude wants to be Lamar Jackson's agent. That guy wants to be a gym guy. Yeah. Now, wants to start a business. Whether or not that's going to work, I don't know. Although if you can talk to him about sending up an entire gym, I swear to God, we'll do something with it. We'll turn it into we'll make a TikTok out of it. Okay. If you can follow up with him and say, hey, if we can get our hands on an entire gym. I mean, I don't know.
We'll do it on weekly
Yeah,
TikToks.
I mean, let's not over-promise. But we'll do some content with it. So I'll start with that. The journalistic side of me says nothing about that conversation to me reads. And I always thought that it was more likely that this guy was calling teams about the entire gym and mentioning Lamar Jackson, and somehow those two things got misconstrued. Now, I do think it also matters that he went out of his way there at the end to talk up Lamar wants to be in Baltimore. I do think that all of those parts of it matter. To what extent? I don't know. Again, I don't think that Ken Francis is Lamar Jackson's agent. I can't say that enough. Nothing about that conversation, to me, comes off like this guy thinks he's Lamar Jackson's agent. I'm willing to, you can tell me if you think I'm naive, but I'm willing to say I think I can put that to bed entirely. After one conversation, at no point. I think if that dude really wanted to represent Lamar Jackson, he would have taken the opportunity. Instead, every time I tried to go down that road, he pushed it to the side. So I am willing to come away from that and say, I don't think that's a thing any longer. And I'm not saying, again, I don't think Mike Florio made something up. I think he heard it from a source, and I think conversations got misconstrued. I think Mike Florio heard from a team source or from someone in the NFL, hey, there's this guy calling around representing Lamar Jackson. And after that conversation, I firmly believe that guy believed he was representing Lamar Jackson as a business partner on a product, not as a contract negotiator. As a partner, as someone who's working regularly with Lamar, he says Lamar Jackson loves Baltimore. He says that if you guys have been of the belief that Lamar wanted out, then, he's not backing that up for you. So take that for what it's worth. Combine that with the Odell Beckham thing, maybe somebody would say you can tick that number up another notch or two on the Lamar-O-Meter. So it was interesting. That was something that the timing was interesting that it happened to be today. Griffin had been working on it for a couple of weeks. Was it the most valuable interview we've ever done? Nope. Not at all. Not even a little bit.
Learned about the entire gym.
That part I didn't really care about all that much. Got to be honest with you. That was but that's the way it works, right? Like I've said this eternally. I have always said, if you're willing to talk to me, I will give you the opportunity to plug whatever it is that you want to plug. Nobody owes anything to us, this show. If you want to do this, you will get the opportunity to plug your product, to plug your partnership, to plug your Twitter account, to plug anything, your podcasts, all of it. That is no different than any other conversation I will have with anyone else. As you know, I literally end every conversation with, what else can we plug for you? So I will not apologize for that part of it. He got his plug in. That's part of the deal. We asked the questions. Were you calling around the teams? You denied it, and he had denied it at ESPN. Where do you think that might have came from? Well, we think we got to the bottom of it. He was calling teams. But again, I said that I remember the day that we first learned Ken Francis's name. I think Stan was in here that day. I said then that I thought the most likely scenario was, this doesn't smell right to me. I could never say it was impossible, but it doesn't smell right. And I feel stronger about that after this conversation. I don't believe that this guy was actually calling and representing Lamar Jackson. 'Cause I'm telling you, if this person wants to be Lamar Jackson's fake agent, this conversation doesn't go that way. They're looking for any opportunity to speak on behalf of Lamar Jackson, and he was not comfortable doing that when we gave him those chances. He always deferred right back to, that's between Lamar and Eric DaCosta. That's not about me. That has nothing to do with me. And anyone who's ever dealt with it, I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, you want to have your opinions about whether or not Lamar Jackson should be in business with the guy? Fair game. Fair game. Have those opinions. I don't know. It seems like a decent enough fella. I mean, I don't know how good of a businessman he is. You can scoff at the entire gym all you want. I don't know anything about it. It's not my world. I'm not going to be the one to cast that judgment. I don't know how the Sharks would feel about it if he went in front of Mark Cuban.
Well, he got the only shark that mattered, Lamar Jackson.
That's true. That's a hell of a shark.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a shark to get. A little dodgy on because I do think there's a difference between this was someone that was part of his inner circle and he felt like, I owe it to this guy to represent his product and try to push it. That's not the way it was presented. It was more like, yeah, we knew each other, kind of. We were in the same circles. But he really went and pitched the idea and pitched the product, and Lamar said, I'm going to throw myself behind it. That's interesting why that's the one that Lamar throws himself behind and not, some previously established brands that have not reached out to Lamar. All of these things are fascinating. Does it really move the Lamar-O-Meter? Probably not. I don't know how much impact that's going to have tomorrow. But if anything, I would say it's positive. If anything, that, another person who's close to Lamar, who's within his circle, reiterating Lamar's love and that Lamar has no issue, I think that matters. Mm-hmm. Because I do think that a number of times during this process, we've wondered about the relationship between Eric DaCosta and Lamar Jackson. When we hear that Lamar Jackson isn't returning texts, we wonder if there's been some sort of poison in that relationship. Well, here's someone within Lamar Jackson's circle saying that's not the case. What do we make of that? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll deal with that. We'll deal with it. I'm trying to get to some of your responses. Dylan, are you just memeing, or is the guy Lamar denied was represented actually put this state? No, I'm telling you that. You guys on Twitter are really struggling with it. Somebody had this problem last week with something that Nick Boyle said.
Nick Boyle wants Lamar.
No, Nick Boyle, I guess, was like saying something about Eric DeCosta, or no. It was Jermaine Wiggins. That's who it was.
Okay.
It was Jermaine Wiggins was on the show and said something like, if I'm the Patriots, I'm Bill Belichick, I'm trying to take advantage of the fact that Eric DeCosta's been stupid. And like two different people said, well, who's the one saying this? I don't think Bill Belichick said Eric DeCosta was stupid. I'm like, read the start of the sentence. We tell you who it was that said it. Jermaine Wiggins said it. Today, Ken Francis said it. That's the guy. That's Ken Francis. He was just on the show. Ken Francis just appeared on the show. That's the guy. We've been working on this for some time, since the day that Ken Francis entered into our lives. And he spoke to us. And you may now have whatever opinion you'd like to have about Ken Francis, Lamar Jackson, the entire gym, Glenn Clark. I don't care. Whatever your opinion is.
We'll have positive opinions of Glenn Clark.
Well, I mean, some people. Not everyone. Not everyone will. All right. I do appreciate him taking the time, for what it's worth. I appreciate him taking the time. We wanted to do that. He did it. That's what I will say. Today's show brought to you by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Brian McFarland, Russell Street Report, Cap Expert, joins us next. Glenn Clark Radio. Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part? Their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Harford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Harford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
If you miss anything on the show, don't forget that you can watch full episodes at youtube.com/pressboxonline, and you can download podcasts on Apple, iTunes, Amazon, and Grindr. Wait, did I say Grindr? I don't think that you would find it on Grindr. Not that I know it's on Grindr or anything. I swear. On second thought, you know what? I don't care what you think. Here's Glenn.
All right, back in here on GCR. We will get that conversation with Ken Francis up a little bit later on today. If you missed any of it, you could also just sort of rewind on the video or on the audio, and you can do that if you would prefer. That's certainly a way to go about doing it. Also, if you missed it earlier today, the Lamar-O-Meter is brought to you by Glory Days Grill. 90% is the reading after the Odell Beckham news, and if you would like to win a Glory Days Grill gift card, a $25 gift card, you can still tweet me throughout the day at Glenn Clark Radio and tell me where you thought the meter should have moved after the Beckham news, and we will choose someone at random to win a $25 gift card to Glory Days Grill. Again, Glory Days Grill brings you the Lamar-O-Meter. Glory Days Grill, great food, good sports. Joining us now to try to explain a little bit more about the specific contract the Ravens handed out to Odell Beckham Jr., he is our friend, cap expert for Russell Street Report. He is Mr. Brian McFarland, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Brian, always appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Yeah, sure, Glenn. Thanks for having me on.
So I saw your tweet, in a couple of your tweets yesterday that tried to start explaining it, and the thing that sort of jumps out at me is I do the silly Lamar-O-Meter every day. It sounds like the way they structured a deal, this damn well better be a deal for Odell Beckham to play with Lamar Jackson, because why would you be signing up for dead cap space in future years if you weren't confident that Lamar Jackson was going to be your quarterback next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've been confident all along that that was the case, and obviously, their read of the market, whether other teams would even make an offer, or whether they made it clear to get it out there that this is we're planning on matching everything, and this is the way we're going to do contracts. Is what the fifth contract they've added void years to, which they had never done prior to this year, and those void years keep that for this year's cap number really low. So certainly they're that's signaling, I think, to other teams. We're keeping. They haven't restructured anybody yet. I mean, they've got restructures in their pocket that could create $26 million if they need to. So, I mean, it's certainly saying if you're going to try to create an offer that you don't think we can match,
right,
we're showing you right now that we're going to match it.
And essentially, they had to do the deal the way that they did it because they couldn't take on all of this money right now over the course of 1 year and still have the ability to make sure they could match whatever anybody would put out for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's why, like I said, they've never used void years. They've avoided them even when the cap went down 2 years ago. Substantially, they avoided using them then. I don't think it's something they want to use, but I think it's the reality that they know that to make sure that Lamar is here next year and hopefully for longer, that they're going to use these to make sure now he's signed. If they get assigned to an extension, that'll
Right.
create more cap space, which would be great. But for the time being, if he's got to play on the tag, they're showing that they're ready to go and go to the mat for him.
He is Brian McFarland, Russell Street Report. He is with us here on GCR. Brian, can you explain what those numbers look for Odell Beckham? Let's just say he does. Maybe he's not prime Odell Beckham this season, but he does, have a representative year and he's helpful, and they get to that point and say, hey, we'd be willing to try to keep him around. How does that, give me a rundown of what the dead cap space would look like for the next couple of years and how that might be different if they were to give him a contract and extend him past this season?
Sure. So the way the void years work, and I'm just assuming at this point that they added 4 void years, so 5 years is the maximum amount a signing bonus can be prorated. So that's the way to get this year's cap number as low as possible, so that $13.835 million signing bonus gets split divided by 5 and technically counts about 2.7 each year.
Okay.
For the next 5. So that's how you can get him down to a cap number of just under $4 million this year. But the way it's structured, but there's no salaries. There's only one salary, and that's for this year. If he is not re-signed by the time that contract voids next year, beginning of the league year, then all those other $2.7 million all accelerate and hit next year's cap. which means there's about a little over $11 million in dead money.
That sounds
so
great.
That's
that sounds awesome. That's exactly what you want to do, is have $10 million of dead space on a 1-year receiver option.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not, and that's why people, there have been a lot of complaints about why in the last couple of years when other teams were using void years. Why don't we do that? Well, the reason you don't do that is, because of that $11 million. I mean, the Eagles have, I think, close to $30 million in dead money on their cap right now because of using void years. So it's not something you want to do, but in times of the cap going down, or in times like this, for the Ravens wanting to make sure that they can secure Lamar for the future, you do it. You got to do what you got to do. Now, if they were to extend him before that date, and let's just say it was for 4 years, then those $2.7 million, each of those yearly $2.7 million hits would still hit each year. So they don't accelerate. So it would be a new contract and a new cap number based on the new deal, but plus the $2.7 million each year.
Okay.
So, it is, they can get out from under it, but obviously, that's a year down the road, and we're going to have to see what happens with both he and Lamar. And, obviously if Beckham has a great year and they can come to terms, then they can avoid that huge hit. But otherwise, if they can't, then that's the drawback to void years, is that dead money sitting there.
He is Brian McFarland from Russell Street Report. Again, he's joined us here on GCR. Brian, does that make you think that they do this hoping that they would be able to work something out with Odell Beckham and that this works and he's a Raven for a while? Or, again, what you just said a minute ago, like, this is just, we don't really have a choice otherwise. We're our backs are against the wall. We have to do this because we have to do this. We'll deal with anything else when we get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the approach. I mean, ideally, I think everybody, and I would assume Beckham too. I mean, I think part of the reason he's coming here is Lamar Jackson. So, I think the idea would be everybody hopes it goes swimmingly, and we'll figure it out next year. And it gives him a little leverage with the Ravens too. If he's getting better offers somewhere else, and the Ravens aren't getting to that point, he could say, look, his agent's going to say, look, you're going to have 11. He's going to count 11 million on your cap anyway. Let's figure out a deal that we can put those numbers together, and it might be less than that, and and then you can avoid this huge dead money hit. So, I mean, I think I don't think teams ever go in saying we only expect this to be a 1-year deal unless the guy's in the last years of his career. So I think with Beckham, but obviously his injury history, I don't think you want to commit more than that. But it is definitely it's definitely a deal that the Ravens, something like this they've never done before, for sure.
So I'm going to float this theory out there, Brian. There have been people that have brought up the idea that maybe the Ravens are acknowledging they might not have Lamar Jackson for more than one more year, and maybe they're just kind of trying. They've used the term all in. Now I scoff at that because the phrase the Eagles went all in, and A.J. Brown was at the center of it. We're talking about a guy who's past 30 years old and hasn't had a good season in the NFL in 3 years. But the idea of if they've gotten to a point where they just think it's going to be one more year of Lamar Jackson and then it's probably not going to work out after that, would there even be room for them to be able to do anything else? Like, is there any possibility they could still be involved in a DeAndre Hopkins conversation? Is there any ability at all past this, and knowing what they have to keep protected for Lamar Jackson, for them to make any more moves whatsoever?
I mean, I think there's always minor moves you can make because you're a veteran on a veteran minimum salary deal is only costing an extra $100,000 or $200,000. So, I mean, there's those kinds of moves. There may be, a cornerback move. The guy from the Raiders, his name is escaping me, who visited a couple weeks ago.
God, why am I blanking on it now? Sorry, I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, so I think that, but that's not a $20 million, $15 million
Rocky Scene, by the way, is who it was.
Yeah. So I mean, he may be a $5 or $6 million Marcus Peters, that maybe, and who knows, maybe they were bringing the other guy in to try and push Peters to get him re-signed. I don't know, So I mean, I think they've got they can still do a moderate move there, and certainly if they're willing to use void years, then they probably could do more because, you're looking at paying Odell Beckham, $15 million, but he's only counting less than 4 on your cap. So, I mean, if they want to keep doing this, they can, and whether that's a signal they're all in, or whether that's a signal they're all in on for 1 year, or they're just all in on Lamar and they want to build the team as much as possible. But I guess it could be both in a way.
Sure.
We'll go all in, and if we get Lamar done, great, and if we don't, then we'll trade him next off season. I've always said that next off season was really the push come to shove off season, because you can't tag him 3 times because of the number of $80 million cap number if you tagged him a third time in 25. So next year, if they don't get him re-signed, they have to trade him or they lose him for a third-round comp pick.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So this year they can hold on to him because that next a second tag is not that terrible, which is kind of funny to say when you're talking about $40 million.
But part of that is the cap number going up too, correct?
Sure, absolutely. So I mean, and a lot of teams were banking on that, and they're still behind where they should be from the pandemic, the deduction for the pandemic. But certainly, we're at 225. Most people are expecting it to be 250 next year as far as the cap goes. So that helps obviously all teams, but it'll help lessen if it is $11 million from Beckham on the cap next year. That's $25 million jump will be helpful for sure.
Brian, can I ask before I let you go? You've, I'm sure, read a lot of these theories that, different former executives, different former agents. Joel Corey's put out a bunch of them. Andrew Brandt's put out. I'm sure you've read plenty of these, like, here's the version of a contract that I think could work to make this work with Lamar Jackson. Has anything that you've read or heard ever said to you, like, this does seem interesting to me? This seems like a way that you could sort of assuage Lamar Jackson and still make it work to have the ability to put together an appropriate football team in the coming years?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, obviously you could do a contract all sorts of ways. The most of those articles were a 3-year deal or a 4-year deal as opposed to 5 or 6 or more. Like Mahomes was 10, Josh Allen I think was 6 or 8. I mean, because it was 6 plus the 2 he still had on his contract. So it was like an 8-year deal. So that allows, a 3-year deal would be harder from a cap perspective for the Ravens. So I don't think that's something they really want. Because if you're talking, just as round numbers, $150 million over 3 years, you can only lower that first-year cap number so much. And where they are now at 32, it would probably have to go up, or you're going to have a $70 million cap number in the third year. So that wouldn't, while it might be the way to bridge the gap and certainly gives Lamar the chance to be a free agent again in 29. I know Joe Corey, the key to his was to sweeten the pot for Lamar is in 3 years we can't franchise tag you.
Mm-hmm.
So, that from a player's perspective, I would think that would be, and everything we're hearing is, I mean, all along I felt Lamar's never come out and said anything really bad about the Ravens, or even though he demanded the trade, quote unquote, or requested the trade.
Right.
He never really came out and said, I want out of Baltimore, So certainly it seems like this is where he wants to be. It's just a way of finding that, finding that sweet spot. But if he also wants no less than what, now this is a rumor, obviously, but, no less than what Watson got, $230 million fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Then that's got to be a 4 or 5 year deal. There's no way to get that. There's no way to make that work in a short-term deal.
Yep, no question. I mean, you say, I guess there's a way, but it would be pure insanity at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, you got these, it's this balancing act of what does he want? If he wants that big number, if that big number means something to him, then it's got to be a 4 or 5 or 6 year deal. Now, whether again there's a no to sweeten the deal, and maybe 4 or 5 or 6 years down the road, we won't use the tag then. Maybe that the Ravens we'll worry about that then, and if we can't use the tag, we can't use the tag. But that's 4 or 5 or 6 years down the road, so that might be something they'd be more amenable to. I don't know that they would on a 3-year deal, but on a longer deal, figuring they got the his best years out of him, so to speak, by then, and he's going to be older, and maybe they don't want him back anyway by then. So who knows?
All right. Again, what can I plug for you, Brian? What I know, obviously, RussellStreetReport.com, and particularly RussellStreetReport.com/salary cap for, really the bare bones information, the really hard line stuff about the cap, and of course Raven's salary cap on Twitter. Is there anything else I can plug for you? Do you want to plug the entire gym by chance this morning, Brian?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I missed that. Was there a big plug in there, too?
Oh, there were lots of. But I mean, look, you know how these things work. We always we say
Sure.
we say. And it's the same thing. If you ever said to me, "Bro, I got a product. Can I come?" You've been so good to me over the years. I'd be happy to let you come. Do that.
I appreciate that. No, I'm good. That's my two places for people to find me, and hopefully, between now and July 15th, when the chance to give Lamar a long-term deal ends for this year. Hopefully between now and then, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about as far as something finally getting resolved.
Boy, from your lips to God's ears, my friend. Brian McFarland, appreciate you, man. Thanks for squeezing us in this morning. I know it's a busy day for you. Really appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man. Anytime.
Brian McFarland, salary cap guru for Russell Street Report, breaking that down for us. And again, that's the part that I keep coming back to. Why in God's name? Because you can make the argument that you could acquire Odell Beckham for anyone who is playing quarterback next season. And again, I'm trying to be careful about how far we go in on talking about Odell Beckham, because I do think that there should be limitations for our expectations. I think if we are envisioning 2015 Odell Beckham to show up in Baltimore, that's wildly unreasonable. Wildly. But if we're envisioning a complementary receiver to help Rashad Bateman,
Mark Andrews,
to help all of those things, I think there's reason to believe he can still be that guy. We, of course, need to see where he is. He's had a lot of time to recover from this injury, but I'm willing to say I think he could help any quarterback. But to the point, doing this and potentially, let's just say he's not that guy any longer. And I think that's
very possible.
I'm not willing to say 50-50, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves, we'd have to say it's at least a 30% chance. Why would you take on dead space on your cap at the tune of $10 million the following year if you weren't absolutely confident you were doing it to pair him with Lamar Jackson? And again, them good. By the way, we found out TMZ has told us it was at Live nightclub last night in Miami that the duo went out to celebrate.
I guess it's a good one.
Got to be honest with you, I don't think it's related to the golf tournament, but the letters LIV now have a sour taste in my mouth. I want to make sure that there's not any blood money. By the way, good news, bad news for our friend Ryan Frazier. The good news, you don't have to worry about it feeling like blood money because Brooks Koepka didn't win. The bad news is you don't get any money. I'm sorry. John Rahm won. And you know what's really cool about that is our friend John in Little Rock actually had John Rahm in the first pool. And John in Little Rock, who started this whole process by telling us about what was going on down in Arkansas. And, of course, we love John, and we wanted to help him. So we wanted to raise $100 to send down to the Arkansas Food Bank. Well, John from Little Rock took his $100 and said, let's go ahead and make it $200. So good guy, John in Little Rock.
Congrats, John.
Big weekend for the Johns. John Rahm, John in Little Rock.
That Live Miami, they've blocked like trademark applications from Live Golf.
Oh, really? It's become a whole thing.
Yes,
that's
yes.
kind of great.
It is good.
You know what? Now I kind of like Live Miami.
like
If
Live
I'm being
Miami.
honest with you, I might be on board with the whole Live Miami at this moment. Yeah. So anyway, John Rahm wins the Masters. You know what's nice today is I don't have to pretend like I cared. Like I don't have to pretend like I was on board. As soon as I knew it wasn't going to be Cameron Young, I was pretty checked out at that point. But congratulations to both John Keller, John in Little Rock, and Matt Barr was the other winner in our second pool. So he got $100 and another $100 to the Arkansas Food Bank. So Win, win. That's why we do these things. We'll figure out an excuse to do another one of these things in the future for sure. All that being said, I'm kind of all over the place at this point. The salary cap implications are the biggest reason to me why there's no room for conversation about this being for someone else and Odell Beckham, because that's nonsense. Unless that someone else was, again, was a franchise. Unless for whatever reason you knew the Jacksonville Jaguars were willing to trade you Trevor Lawrence for Lamar Jackson. Unless you know you have a franchise quarterback that's not named Lamar Jackson that's going to be your quarterback next season. I'm not doing this for 1 year for a rookie quarterback, even if I think very highly of them. I'm not strapping myself. Next offseason, I want to have that cap space to go get a real football player for that guy if he pans out this season. Not tying myself to $10 million worth of dead space next year for a guy that didn't work this year for a rookie quarterback that probably wasn't going to be able to win a Super Bowl anyway. Will Odell Beckham be the difference in the Ravens winning the Super Bowl? Absolutely no idea. I'm writing about Odell Beckham today at PressBoxOnline.com. And my biggest takeaway, as always, I'll just go ahead and give it to you. Please read the column anyway. Do me a solid. It damn well better not change their draft strategy. That's my biggest takeaway. I had a few people reach out to me and say, what's great about this is now the Ravens don't have to take a wide receiver in round 1. I don't know that the Ravens were ever going to take anybody in round 1. If you had to make me, do the whole bullet to my head, like, what are the Ravens going to do in round 1? Trade out. Try to get more picks. But nothing about their draft strategy should be even remotely changed because of the presence of Odell Beckham. A 1-year signing of a player that has not been high level in 3 years and is coming off of an injury that cost him an entire season. No. I hope Odell Beckham works. Worst case scenario, I know you're not going to believe this because we live in Baltimore. You can have 3 wide receivers. The Bengals have done it. Other teams have had 3 wide receivers. Damnedest thing. And a tight end. It's crazy. Throwing out all the rules here. I know, again, you're not going to believe this. Sometimes players get hurt. I know that never happens here in Baltimore. Sometimes you need depth. There is nothing about the presence of Odell Beckham to me that would, if in any way, the Ravens are saying to themselves, well, now we don't have to be as hell-bent about getting a wide receiver early on in the draft. No, nothing should change based on signing Odell Beckham. Now, I don't know that they were going to be hell-bent on it. Again, I think their one priority is more picks. And I disagree with that priority. I want special. I don't need more fourth-rounders. I don't need more depth. Yes, can a fourth-rounder turn into special? Of course, it's possible. Is it likely? Simple math tells you no. Give me special. Give me game-changing. Give me guy that turns the course of the franchise around over the next decade. And whether that's a wide receiver or whether it's a cornerback or whatever else it might be, if it's Nolan Smith, it's Nolan Smith. God bless. But nothing about your draft strategy should change because of the presence of Odell Beckham. That would be nonsense.
Jim Nagy tweeted, I think he said, that the wide receiver grades from media are way off as to what GMs are thinking, and that there might only be 1 first-round receiver based on how GMs and teams are thinking. Was that encourage you anymore for the Ravens to trade back and maybe get a receiver early?
I mean, this is get the guy.
Get the guy.
Remember the year that all the receivers went after the first round? How did that turn out?
They were all pretty good.
They're all studs. Get that. Stop it with this cutesy, well, they really only think it's a second-round grade. If Deebo Samuel is available in this draft, go get him. Scout well. Figure out who the one is. Is the one Jackson Smith and Jigba? Is the one Zay Flowers? Go get that guy. Well, but you might be able to get a good guy in the second. Stop it. Get the guy. Get that guy. Build around him for a decade. I don't know why I just got so angry about that.
It's Jim Nagy, not me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. You jerk. Baseball season is here. For the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get 5 second-chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit your first $50. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. Jeremy Conn's next. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Another Orioles season is in the books, and the Bat-Around was there every step of the way as the Birds posted their first winning season in 6 years. And after promoting 2 number-1 overall prospects in Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, Mike Elias has said it's liftoff from here. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and along with my co-host Zach Goodman, we'll be here every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon all off season, discussing every signing, trade, and waiver claim as we navigate the cold winter months that lead to spring training. You can watch us at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio. And if you miss a show, you can find us anywhere you get your podcasts. So tune into the Bat-Around with Paul Valley and Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here at PressBox Sports.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn, over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
If you need more of Glenn, you can also hear him every Sunday with Rita on 105.7 The Fan. But also, if you need more of Glenn, what's wrong with you?
And we continue along in hour number 2 of a busy Monday edition of GCR. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast, though it didn't feel that way yesterday. Last night, it's a different conversation for a different day. New rebates and discounts are available. Find out more, ajmichaels.com. All right, we continue to react to the news of the Baltimore Ravens adding Odell Beckham, as you saw earlier, and not just the signing itself, but then the reaction from Lamar Jackson and the two of them parting it up. Bumped the Lamar-O-Meter all the way up to 90% this morning, the highest reading in Lamar-O-Meter history. Joining us now from the Big Bad Morning Show. I told this guy a couple weeks ago I'd let him set the Lamar-O-Meter one day. We got to figure out a way to make that work. Problem is he's ending his show at 10, so it's tough to have him hop on our show right at 10. We'll work around that. Big Bad Morning Show, 105.7 The Fan. His picks every day, PressBoxOnline.com. He is our friend Jeremy Conn. Jeremy, good morning, bud. How are you?
I'm good. You just let me know when you want me to come over and move your meter.
Yeah,
and I'm on
baby. Yeah, like you don't normally do that on a Monday. Like that's not normally part of how this all works.
That's not my bag.
Can you explain to people how pleasant it must have been for you last night, as you're thinking about, I got to do the show in the morning. Like Easter's busy for everybody. People have things going on. How much easier our lives are in this business when something like this comes down on a Sunday night, and how insanely jealous it is for me that it didn't happen before 1 o'clock yesterday when I had 3 hours of radio to do.
Yeah. And, I feel like it's one of those things too, where people love to talk about when something bad goes wrong or, bad happens, I should say. Anything that could go wrong, like they'll talk about that for weeks, but stuff like this, the initial response on a Monday, and look, Mondays can sell themselves usually. You've had a whole weekend of sports stories and different things, the Masters, the Orioles, but this is, football is king. And so anything that happens with your team in a positive note, it's
definitely a little bit more pleasant to see what people feel. But there's always still going to be people that are negative about it, like, oh, they paid too much money for him, and they did this, and they still don't have a quarterback. But this is another huge step into making sure that does happen.
Are you as confident? Like, again, the signing alone was significant, and I still have some questions about Odell Beckham for sure. But the signing alone would make me say, okay, I don't think you're doing this. I sure as hell don't think you're creating a scenario where you could have $10 million worth of dead cap space next year if you're not confident that it's to partner Odell Beckham with Lamar Jackson. But all of the stuff that followed afterwards, the FaceTime call, them partying together down in Miami, I don't know how we read anything other than Lamar Jackson is planning to play football at least this season in Baltimore with Odell Beckham.
Yeah, I mean, the Instagram posts, all those things, it would lead you to believe that. And I said it this morning that, you know, and I think we all probably felt that way. Like Odell signing here, he had two reasons to sign here. One would be financially.
Yep.
The other is to play with Lamar. And look, the financial stuff is definitely in the fold. The Lamar stuff, not so much. But I'd almost feel like there'd have to be some sort of, like he'd have to know something. Like, I mean, whether we all know that the Ravens hold the trump card, you can sign him. It's one thing to have Lamar on your team and he's happy and he wants to play. It's another thing to have an upset quarterback. But whether he comes back on a franchise deal or whether he signs a long-term deal, I do think he's back here with Odell for at least 1 year.
And that, you know, it does, the conversations beyond that continue to be quite interesting, and what the future of Lamar Jackson will be and what the Ravens do. All of those things become relevant, but it does – it's really hard to fathom at this point a scenario where Lamar is like, yeah, by the way, I'm still not happy. Like, I'm not going to play this season. That becomes more and more difficult for you to imagine. I left the meter at 90 because, like, I'd still be fascinated if the Ravens aren't confident that Lamar is going to sign long-term and someone were to swoop in, like the Patriots were to come in and say, you know, we'll give you, you know, 6 first-round picks. Like, I still think there's some scenario where they could just say, well, it would be bad business for us to not take that deal, right? But
yeah. Absolutely.
You know, that's it. That's the only thing that's left for me at this point as to how this would play out. Jeremy, the other side of it, the Odell Beckham side, everybody gets excited. This is a name we all know. This is a guy who has been a high-level wide receiver in the NFL. He's also someone who hasn't even had, 600 yards in the NFL since 2019, who has dealt with injuries. What actually do you think the Ravens are getting by signing Odell Beckham?
Well, look, they're getting a really good player. The question is, what does he look like after injury? If you take a look at some of the different, like I guess you could call it a pro day, but his workouts and things that he had, he looked really good. So, I mean, these are injuries that players come back from all the time, and I think just because the one happened in the Super Bowl and how long everything lasted last year, it made more sense for him to ultimately sign the following year and get to 100% than try to come back early, especially when a contract could be looming. So, I still think he has a lot left, and I think it kind of pushes everybody down the board a tick. And I honestly, I think the guy that this probably helps out the most is Mark Andrews.
Sure.
Because if you have it's going to help out everybody, let's be honest. But I've already seen people posting stuff like Mark Andrews, Odell, Rashad Bateman, J.K. Dobbins. Is this enough weapons? And I finally do feel like he's got good weapons. We'll have to see what Monk can bring to the table. And for the first time in a long time, you might have a really formidable offense where, as much as this is what everybody wanted, this is when we find out if Lamar's the real deal or not, which I already think he is. But can he put up those type of numbers if he's not just in this full-on running offense nonstop?
I would ask the question, are you at all concerned that this was a player that appeared to already be on the decline before the injury occurred, right? Like that's a part. I know, Jonas brought it up and wrote something about it today. Like, there is that little blip where he was effective for the Rams in that postseason. There's no question about it, right? Like, the numbers aren't overwhelming, and part of that is he didn't finish the Super Bowl. But that's a little blip, and the rest of the 2 seasons leading up to that, he was pretty much a non-factor. How do you measure all of that?
I mean, could we look at quarterback play too, where he was? I mean, is that part of
reasonable.
it?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. There were a lot of blame there. I would say this, and I agree with what you said wholeheartedly, that I feel like he kind of caught his stride late in the season into the playoffs. He was looking really good in the first half of that Super Bowl before the injury happened. And I honestly wonder, because he went into the Super Bowl kind of limping in. He was playing hurt, and don't know if that is what caused the re-aggravation or whatever in the surgery he had to have. But ultimately, it has to be a concern. I mean, I do like the fact that he signed him to a 1-year deal. I mean, it's an investment. It's a lot of money. That is a lot of money for a player that we didn't expect to get it. But if you're trying to keep your quarterback happy, I think you try to do everything you can, including this.
All right, I can't believe how much sports we're talking this morning. This is a real problem. I haven't even covered, I haven't talked about the Orioles at all this morning. This is what's going on. Let me cover two things. One, are you convinced that the bullpen will be fine when Dylan Tate and Michael Givens return, or do you have a bigger concern about the sheer number of innings that they're being required, the starters not working many innings so far? Like, where are you at with trying to keep in mind we're still dealing with a 9-game sample size?
Yeah, I try not to get too far ahead of myself. It is concerning. So the one thing, if you talked about two of the things that have been concerning, some of the defensive woes they had quite a few errors in the first couple of series, and then on top of it, the way the bullpen's performed. The one I'm less worried about is their defense. I think ultimately that figures itself out and works itself out, that we're not seeing some of these problems we had because these guys have a better track record as far as defenders than what we could say about the bullpen. And year to year, bullpens, you can have the same damn players come back and have totally different results the next year. So I do think it'll be better when Tate and Givens are healthy, but I don't just assume that it's all of a sudden going to start clicking there. Right now, I feel like Hyde has a couple of guys that he really trusts and relies on. You just got to worry about wearing those guys out, because then they could become guys you don't trust and rely on real quick.
Well, and even some of those guys have been shaky, right? Like, the funny thing is, Danny Colombe has been one of, the most reliable pieces so far, and none of us had ever heard of him before, too.
Oh, you don't remember the great Colombe family?
Oh, right. The family Colombe. I do. It's so oh, man. I have talked a lot over the last week about the Grayson situation, and dude, I am, I'm through the roof, right? Like, I had, if he would have only made it out of the first inning and pitched 3 innings on Wednesday, I still would have been excited about Grayson Rodriguez. What he did, I can't be more excited about Grayson Rodriguez. But that thing is real to me, that innings cap that's going to come up this season, and how this franchise handles it. And whether they deal with it now, say, let's deal with it if it becomes this is what I was going to write about today for Pressbox until Odell Beckham came along. I am really nervous about this franchise not thinking about how ugly it would be if Grayson Rodriguez is pitching well and they're in a playoff race come September and they announce they're doing the Steven Strasburg bit and shutting him down. Man, this city, everything that we've been through as a fan base, and especially if they haven't at that point still not extended Adley Rutschman or Gunnar Henderson. And my God, imagine if they still haven't announced the lease at that point, right? This city would be apoplectic if that type of thing were to occur. And I do think they should at least be thinking about that. It's easy for people to say, hey, don't worry about a problem until it becomes a problem. Well, it's like you see 2 trains driving together. You don't just right at each other. You don't say, well, they're 100 miles away. We don't need to think about that. At some point, I would like to know that there's some sort of plan for how you're going to go about handling that this season.
Yeah, and as soon as I learn how to spell apoplectic, I'm going to look it up, figure out what that word actually means, because it could be a good or bad thing. It sounded really sexy. It made you sound really smart too, by the way. It makes me sound
every
not so smart.
Every now and then I throw one in just to try to bamboozle people into believing that I have qualifications beyond just being a monkey on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, the real hard thing, too, is in what you're talking about. And look, they'll give you the whole marathon, not a sprint thing and all this stuff. But they didn't have to do this with pitchers when they came up. I know they're an investment, but, man, it just feels like you talk to a guy like Ross Grimsley or any of these older players. It's like, man, we threw all the time. We had Ken Singleton on this morning. He's talking about how fast games used to be back in the 70s and 80s because pitchers were going deep in the games. You didn't have all these pitching changes. You didn't have to get all these commercial breaks to get advertising in. And we were joking about it. And I said to him, broadcasting is going to get to the point where every pitch is sponsored. So, it's kind of weird. But with Grayson, I agree with you. They had the one quote from Stowers, I believe, saying the one thing he loved about him is when he gave up runs early, he usually settled in, just kind of locked down after that. And it felt just like that start. And I think we all could attribute that to nerves. So tomorrow's going to be pretty cool with him getting his first home start, his T-shirt night, and you're facing the A's, but there's going to come some expectations, especially if, they screw the pooch tonight and lose. So, he'll have a little bit more pressure on him. But I love watching him pitch. I think he's fantastic.
What would you do? Like if you were, for whatever dumb reason, you were in charge of this, would you go shorter starts? Would you say, hey, let's make sure we save the innings? Would you try to figure out a way that when John Means comes back, you have a 6-man rotation at that point, or you at least skip a few of Grayson's starts? Like, how do you handle this if you're trying to think about it ahead of time and not just have it hit come September?
Yeah, I think some teams have moved their guys to the bullpen, or as you pointed out, shorter starts. Like they're going 4 innings. I don't like any of that. Maybe you start using an opener on his starts. I'm not even a fan of that really. But like for me, if I were handling it, I think I'd want him to pitch until he didn't feel comfortable. But well, I don't want to say until he didn't feel comfortable. Hopefully it's the whole season. But I don't know. I get the kid glove stuff. I hate it to a degree because I don't think it's necessary. But when you have that much money, or at least what you believe to be an investment, you don't want anything to happen, so you're going to handle him with kid gloves, and I think we just need to come to expect it. But for me, I'd let him pitch. If we got into the chance and we had an opportunity to get in the postseason, I'm letting him pitch. There's no data that says he's going to get hurt. It's just this is a precautionary thing.
I would absolutely say, especially if you could figure out a way to say, hey, we're not shutting him down, but we are going to put him in the bullpen to end the season, right? Like, we have to acknowledge we can't keep doing this every 5th day for 6. That math won't work. But if you plan this out to say, hey, we will still have availability for him, and you can revisit this. You get to July and you're out of it. Like, you're not in this. Then who the hell cares? Go ahead and shut him down in Labor Day, right? Like, no one gives a rat's ass at that point. But if you're in it, just to make sure he's available in some capacity to me, I think is really important.
No, I agree. I just want to see him out there. And I just remember, watching it as a baseball fan when Strasburg got shut down and said, if that were me as a Nats fan at that point, I would have been just livid because we all know it. They eventually get a World Series, but how often are you going to get that shot? Just because you get, look at Cal. Cal gets there early on in his career and then never gets back. So Marino's the same way in the NFL. You just never know. You assume that these guys will get back because they're unbelievably good, but, things change.
All right, the NBA playoffs are set with the play-in tournaments this week. Who's actually gonna win this? I don't know that I've ever felt as confused about an NBA playoffs as I have. We got a message from our editor Luke Jackson. Hey, can you do some NBA playoffs futures for me? And I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea who's winning this thing at this point.
Talk about me adding something else to it. I got that same text or email or whatever, and I think now that you're saying it, I'm like, I don't believe I ever responded to that, which makes me somewhat of a jackass.
It's not just I work. This is my they pay my insurance here, and I haven't responded to it yet.
Well, no. Here's what I'll say is, I do think the Suns are the best team in the West. They have they played long enough together to to kind of have everything come to fruition. Maybe not. They need to stay away from injuries. I know that much, but I do think they're the best team. I think people are going to be screaming about what they saw from Kenny Lofton Jr. Like all of a sudden he's going to slide in and take Steven Adams' place. They got this kid, the Memphis Grizzlies got this kid in the, from the G League, and they signed him to a deal so he can play the same way that the Lakers signed Tristan Thompson because they needed a backup body big, and LeBron trusts him. And maybe they fathered kids together. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at the way that the NBA playoffs are set up, I think the Suns are in a great spot. And I think I'm going to go out on a limb and take the Sixers and say they get it done this year and win it all.
Okay.
I like Sixers and Suns, so I'm getting a little different because I love this Celtics team. They went all the way last year. I love the Bucks, but ultimately, at some point, you feel like something has to give, and I'd love to see James Harden and Joel Embiid get there. But I'll go Suns and Sixers and say Sixers in 7.
All right, I like that because the Suns would be there, but I don't like the response. I don't like the result. That would make me very angry if that ended up being the case.
Yeah, I do think. Look, this is me being bullish and being a bit of a contrarian because I do think they're somewhat of a live dog and one of the better teams.
Yep.
But honestly, the Suns have more talent or as much talent as anybody out there, and they've been through this process before. Just need everybody to stay healthy. That's it.
My God, if there would be, as a Suns fan, if they don't win a title this year, I'm absolutely going to be all of it. Because at some point, this Chris Paul thing can't last forever. And look, if you come back without Chris Paul, you're going to be fine. You still have plenty there. But the Chris Paul factor in all of this, like we watched this where Steve Nash was still effective a little bit late in his career, and the Suns made that run to the Western Conference Finals where he was coming off the bench and still giving them some minutes. And that was all well and good, but you could tell, like, it was ending. It was kind of now or never with him. And I'm not saying that, the other three of them would be totally fine with every group of players you put around those three if you can keep those three dudes together. And you just never know with DeAndre Ayton at what point he might just decide he doesn't want to be a part of it any longer. But I don't know, man. Like, there's something about Chris Paul and him being a closer and him coming on in those moments where the game matters that this feels kind of like maybe their only chance that it's kind of not now or never, but like now is definitely the best chance that you might have.
Yeah, and like for example, when you're talking about like me picking the Sixers, is just trying to find somebody with decent odds that I think can win it all. And like I am bullish on them. I've liked the way they played, but they've been vastly inconsistent. Where when the Suns are healthy, along with the Grizzlies and maybe the Celtics and Bucks, I'd put them in there as the most consistent teams that, they can win a high-scoring game. They can win a low-scoring defensive-minded game, and I think we see more of that in the postseason. They said this year in the NBA, since like 1970 or something, this is the first year that they didn't have a team score below 80 points in a game. You might see some of that in the playoffs when these teams it gets a little bit more defensive-minded, half-court sets. So maybe you see that.
Yeah, I'm not really all in for like the old Pistons-Spurs matchups. I'm not really.
You want an 84-76 game?
God, wasn't there the game when Tim Duncan, the Lakers-Spurs game when Tim Duncan hit the shot with like 0.4 of a second left, and then Derek Fisher hit the winner at the buzzer? Wasn't that like a 74-73? Like it was something. It was a college basketball-esque final.
Yeah, that game was so amazing because they couldn't make anything, or you could say it was great defense.
Right.
And then down in the stretch, we see two crazy-ass shots go in. And not that Duncan's is that crazy, but, it's at the buzzer. So
Duncan, I swear to God, it was exactly 0.4, which is like the number. That's I believe in basketball, if it's less than 0.4, they tell you it can't be a shot. Like there has to be 0.4 left in order for it to legally be a shot. Duncan hits what should – oh, my God, it was exactly 74-73. That's exactly what I said, wasn't it?
It was.
That's bonkers.
Yeah, it was
that's
74,
bonkers.
But the other thing with that too, Glenn, is like, I don't agree with that in the NBA where it's like you need at least 0.4 to get a shot off. I think you need way more than that. But there's a human error there because the person with the button's got to hit it as soon as it touches your hands.
Correct.
So if you're turning and catching, how is that not more than – we've all done radio. Have you deleted one of your breaths in a commercial to make it a
fact.
You know what I mean? Like there's no way. Me taking a breath in does not take the same amount of time for someone to catch a ball, turn, and shoot it.
Nope. But that's the rule they've set up in the basketball, and it makes for games to be more compelling in the final seconds. So
absolutely,
I'm not sure that I want it to change. Hey, I'm if I'm remembering correctly, you're not caught up on Succession, right?
No, I am not.
Oh boy. Oh,
I did see Brian Cox and singing the Spice Girls in the car with what's the other guy's name? Alan Cummings.
Oh, I have not seen that. Wait.
Oh yeah, he said he was a closet Spice Girls fan.
Oh,
so they're singing "Tell Me What You Want."
Oh, I'm all in on that. Big night.
Check that out.
Big night last night on Succession. That's all.
Really?
Jeremy. A
I have to
really
catch up before somebody ruins it for me.
big night. Like I just finally, literally last night was the night I got caught up. Like it just happened to work out that way. And oh my God, was it a
You
big
know what's
night on
funny?
Succession.
I asked Rob this morning off the air, and I said, "Hey man, was there a show last night that we all missed? Because are you watching anything? Because all of my Sunday night shows ended,
dude,
and I have to catch up on Succession." Somebody said, "Don't talk to me for at least 3 hours. I need some time to process." And,
yeah, it's I'm mind blowing episode of Succession last night. Get caught up. I would like to discuss it.
Okay.
Things got extraordinarily interesting last night on Succession. That's all. My God, I'm really angry that you can't talk about it. I'm really angry that we can't have
Are you liking Ted Lasso?
Yeah, I'm still. You know, it's funny. Like Drew who fell in love with Ted Lasso. I think last month was saying to me last week that he wasn't as in on this season. I think it's been really fascinating.
Really
yeah, I mean, I think they've gone a little too over the top a couple times this season. Like here's a really nitpicky thing for me this season. Ted Lasso has now been the coach of a real team that's now in the Premier League for 3 years, and they still are doing the bit where they're pretending like he doesn't know anything at all about soccer. Like in the first episode of the season where he's like, I'm not even sure what that is. Like, dude, he's been the coach now for 3 years. We at some point, we have to. It's exactly what he doesn't know who Zava is.
Yeah,
How?
In their storyline, the greatest player in the history of soccer.
Yes, that works in season 1. In season 1, you can do that. In season 3, he's been living in London the entire time. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, well, that's a bit that's a bit of a stretch on some of it. My wife and I started watching Shrinking, and I can't. I've been so mad because she just worked like 4 days in a row, and I'm dying.
Oh, you got it because you got to watch it with her. I understand that. You know the other thing that bothered me, like I'm assuming you watched last week's episode of Ted Lasso, right?
Yes.
Having that many players sent off in a match, like the thing you were attempting to accomplish with the match, you could have accomplished without going to pure theater of the absurd. Like, I think the story
insanity.
Exactly. The story can be better told if you're meeting legit. Like, we all accept, okay, it's this is a silly comedy. Like, we know that there are things that are going to occur. It's kind of like accepting professional wrestling to some amount, but like you can find something closer to reality in order to make the same story work. And those.
You know who I blame for this?
Who?
Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
The Hoosiers.
What the hell,
You
Gene
can't say that my team's out there. You only have 4 guys out there. Put another guy out there.
Exactly right. There's no way that's going to work. Plus, I tried measuring the basket at Hinkle Fieldhouse. It wasn't 10 feet.
9'9". No wonder everybody was dunking on it.
Anyway. Did you ever hear the story of when Drew and I went to Hinkle Fieldhouse? And I swear to God, at the end of the game, there are a group of kids that were lined up to like give the players high fives coming off the court. And Drew effing wandered down and snuck in with the kids so he could give Brad Stevens a high five. Straight shoot thing that occurred.
Oh.
I looked around. I said, "Where the hell is Drew?" And he didn't say like, "Watch what I'm gonna do." He didn't say like it wasn't for shtick. I had no idea where he was. I turn around and I see a grown man amongst a group of 30 children that have formed a tunnel leading off the court, and he's high-fiving Brad Stevens.
I saw him on Sunday run the bases.
By the way, that wouldn't surprise me
kids.
at all, no doubt. All right, what's coming up on this show this week, man?
Well, today's Ed Norris's birthday. He's off all this week, so it's Rob and I.
All right.
Yeah, so we'll be leading in with all the Lamar talk, Orioles talk, and then on Friday, I think Ed and Rob are off, so I believe I'm doing the show with Cordell.
So how about that?
Should be good.
Hey, brother, at Jeremy Conn 1057 on Twitter. Of course, picks every day, PressBoxOnline.com. Love you, man. We'll talk to you next Monday, all right?
Love you guys. I'll see you.
It's Jeremy Conn, the Big Bad Morning Show on 1057 The Fan, with us here on GCR.
Yeah, in Ted Lasso's defense, I didn't know who Zava was before that episode
Thank
started
you,
either,
Griffin.
so,
That's a great point. You didn't even – dude, it's just those things. I shouldn't care because they're not germane to the story, but, like –
playing with emotion, all right?
No, it's not. Like, all you got to do is say something like, I've heard of him, but what's his story? Like, there's a way to still do something within the realm of reality that conveys the same thing you're attempting to convey, which is that Ted Lasso doesn't really know Zava. He's heard of him, but he's not really sure. Like, the idea that he is a coach for 3 years and hasn't heard.
He's so focused on England in the Premier League. He's not paying attention to Serie A
that's
or
what it is.
Bundesliga or
that's what it is.
The Saudi Arabian League.
It's just not necessary to go that far with it, and that was what I felt about the match last week. Like, I got what you were trying to do. To some extent, I understand what you were trying to do.
Set up a great rematch.
I understand that that's part of the story. I get all of that, but that's such an absurdity that I don't think it needed to go as far as it did. I understand. I'm nitpicking Ted Lasso. I also understand that's probably on me. Stan the Fan is going to be back in action tonight, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, as he and Ross Grimsley will catch up with author Lee Lowenfish. He's got a book out about the kind of the death of the scout within baseball, and they're going to chat with him about it tonight. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it live, you'll be able to see it tomorrow. YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. So make sure you are checking that out as Stan the Fan and Ross Grimsley are with you tonight. Obviously, the good news for the Orioles, we haven't really been able to talk much about them this morning. Hopefully by tomorrow, they'll have won a game tonight. Kyle Gibson will improve to 3-0, and we'll have no reason to complain about the last couple of days after a really great opening day win. We were all feeling so great leaving the ballpark on Friday, and not a great weekend to follow that.
Adley hit a homer.
Yes, that is true. That did happen. The Kyle Stowers thing, you're gonna have to miss me with that one, dog. I don't get it. Joining us now, let's find out a little bit more. I've talked about the fact that those two largely down seasons for Odell Beckham. That the story to me is not just the injury; it's that for the most part there were two down seasons for Odell Beckham ahead of that. So I think it would be easy for a lot of people to say he was a player on the decline and he's coming off a significant injury. But there was a blip in there when he arrived in L.A. 2 years ago where maybe he didn't look like prime Odell Beckham, but he sure as hell looked like a helpful piece that could do a lot for the Baltimore Ravens if they can get that guy. So how did that happen? Friend of ours, Super Bowl champion, and part of the broadcast crew for the L.A. Rams. He is our guy, DeMarco Farr, and he's back with us now here on GCR. DeMarco, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up, man. Hope you and your family had a great Easter weekend. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Oh, no worries. We did. Great Easter weekend.
Awesome.
Found a lot of Easter eggs and made it to every house on time. How about that?
Oh, boy, now that is an upset and a half because I will tell you, we hosted Easter this year, DeMarco, and my family did not do that. There was not a lot of on-time involved. That is quite.
Well, we got lucky. It wasn't for lack of trying, but we made it on time.
And I say this all the time. I don't really care. It's about seeing everybody. If you're late, you're late. Yep. So what? It's just good to see you. It's good to get together. That's all that matters to me. So it was a nice weekend for us, too. And my kids, like yours, my God, did they find all of the Easter. All of the Easter eggs, and yet still
all the ones with the candy, the ones I don't want you to have, you found,
and then still asked for a chocolate. At the end of the day, they're like, "Oh, can we still get a chocolate bunny?" I'm like, "Why? You've got it."
Wow. God bless you. God bless you. That's all I can say.
DeMarco, take me back, right? Odell Beckham arrives in L.A. He had been a struggle for the better part of 2 seasons for him in Cleveland. What happened? What clicked? That particularly in those playoffs, Odell Beckham looked like a dude that anyone would want to have and was a real difference maker after there were genuine questions. Like when Odell Beckham became available that year, I remember people in Baltimore being like, I'm not sure that I want that guy. Like, I'm not sure that's the guy that's worth it. What clicked to make it work in L.A. when he was there?
The football answer to me was Matthew Stafford.
Okay.
Having a quarterback that can get you the football and just has a feel for the passing game. So I think he got to open up a little bit. I mean, you could tell every receiver that plays with a guy like Matthew Stafford, the guys I've seen, they really enjoy playing because it's the game within the game. It's not just X's and O's. Let's run here. I'll throw you here. It's little things like he's being a point guard. Throw it here or I'll throw it up here. You can go get it. So I thought that creativity with Matthew Stafford really brought out the best in him. And I'll be honest, man, when they made that move, I went in like a fan. I didn't know him. I only seen him from afar or what I read about him. I went in with the intent on hating him. Within a few days, you love this guy.
Really?
He works hard at it. He loves the game of football. Now, the off-the-field stuff comes with it. He likes to go out. He likes to be known. He likes to be seen. But when he's on the field working with his teammates or in a game-time situation, he is all about ball. He is all about winning. So, like I said, I went in wanting to hate the guy. By the time the Super Bowl rolled around, I wound up loving the dude.
So,
and if he doesn't get hurt in that game, he's probably going to be the MVP.
Oh, man, he was off to no question. He was off to a great start, and he was great all throughout those playoffs. DeMarco, it's interesting you say that because it was one of the questions that I was posing today. As far as being a teammate, despite the fact that he is a kind of superstar, that he is a pop culture figure, you're telling me that he is a guy that is respected and appreciated and loved by his teammates.
Oh, absolutely. Look, when you get dap and love from Aaron Donald, and Aaron's a very humble guy. He's very quiet. He's a locker room leader. Like, he's not going to show you out in public, unless he has to, but he is a guy in the locker room that everybody respects. And, he daps up OBJ. So that means a lot to me. That means a lot to all the young players watching. And then you've got guys like Jalen Ramsey, who might be the fiercest football player I've ever been around, regardless of position. And he's the guy that shows respect and shows love. And not because of your celebrity status. It's because of how you work. Same with Aaron. It's because of how you work. Not who you are or who you hang out with or who's on your Instagram account. It's how you work that impresses those guys. So when they show you respect, I think everyone else that puts on a uniform or covers the game should show them respect. So, but just from my eye, watching this guy go about his business, either pregame or on the practice field, he works hard or harder than most people I've ever seen in the National Football League. So, like I said, my first impression, wanting to hate. But when I saw him, I'm like, man, I think I like this guy.
Let me go back to something, DeMarco, because at that time, again, it sounds like what you're saying to me is it probably isn't so much that Odell Beckham was on the decline at that point in his career, and just that maybe he was in a disastrous situation in Cleveland and that he needed to be in a better situation because the skill, the talent was all very much still there the moment that you got him away from the mess that was the Browns at that point.
Oh, yeah, and dare I say better quarterback.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers makes receivers, right? When they leave Green Bay or leave Aaron Rodgers, they're not the same. So I would say the same works in reverse. So if you have a quarterback, and, it was interesting seeing Baker Mayfield up close, watching him from afar, reading everything about him, watching him on Sundays, and then seeing him up close. I love everything about him, except for when the ball leaves his hand for the most part. So I can see how that might hamstring receivers, especially when there's a lack of creativity. So, but with Matthew Stafford, a guy that, like I said, he's got a whip, a world-class whip. He can get it to anywhere, and he plays the game above the game. That excites receivers. So I think what I saw was building to the best OBJ we had ever seen until he got hurt.
Is there reason to believe, and again, we still don't know, coming off the injury, he's got to show that everything's fine, but it's been over a year and will be, a damn near, 2 years by the point that he actually takes the field this season. If he's healthy, is there reason to believe that with a more competent quarterback, and you'd say whatever you want about Lamar Jackson, I think we would all say Lamar Jackson is definitively better than Baker Mayfield, and I think very highly of Lamar Jackson personally, but I'm willing. I think there can be opinions that can be reasonable within there. But then combine him with the Todd Monken offense, where he succeeded significantly in Cleveland before Todd Monken moved on, and then it was more of a mess. Is there reason for you to think that this could work and that Odell Beckham could be a solid pickup for a Baltimore Ravens team as long as they have Lamar Jackson on the field?
I'm sure if you use him properly and you have the right sort of offense and the right guy to get him the football, then, he can be very effective. He's a dangerous weapon. Now, I got to be honest, it did raise my eyebrow, like, why Baltimore?
Yeah.
Quarterback situation in flux. You would think the offense doesn't fit what Odell Beckham Jr. can do, or vice versa. So I don't know how that's going to work. I'll be just as curious as everyone else to see if that works and how it works out. But I'll tell you this, from a receiver standpoint. And the thing that also got me about OBJ is he's bigger than you think. I thought he was a little guy. He's not very tall, but he's a thick dude. So he reminds me of, what's that guy from New England? Oh my God, I can't remember his name. Julian Edelman. I mean, same thing. He looks small on TV. Then you get up close to him. This guy's got a running back's lower body. Same with OBJ, and he's got these long arms. So he's a freak of an athlete. If you can find a way to use him properly, you're going to get production out of him. It just raised my eyebrow with Baltimore, considering what's going on with their quarterback.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because then we see the pictures of them partying last night together. So it really does make you believe that they think that they're going to be teammates together in Baltimore this season. Obviously, something still has to happen, but it would be weird to me that Lamar Jackson would go out clubbing with Odell Beckham last night in Miami if it's not because they're not confident they're going to be teammates together this season. And again, the Todd Monken factor is real because to your previous point, with the last offensive coordinator in Baltimore, with Greg Roman, I would probably say the same thing. Like, I don't really see the fit here. But given the success that Todd Monken had with Odell Beckham, given the fact that he wanted him back at that point, it really does maybe also make a statement to me that, like, the Ravens are not going to be as hell-bent about running the ball as much as they have been in the past. That it might be their acknowledgement that it's time to perhaps open things up a little bit more.
Well, it's funny. It puts more pressure on Lamar because if it doesn't work, it's all going to point to him. You know what I mean?
It's fair.
So it is what it is. And a couple of years ago, this is also what raised an eyebrow. I did not forget. It seems like there were receivers jumping ship because they didn't want to play in that offense or with a quarterback like Lamar or something like that. But then you get OBJ. So if it works out, great. If it doesn't, like I said, more pressure on Lamar.
That is an interesting way of looking at it, that it's probably the most competent group of playmakers that he's had around him. So, like, you know, hey, dude, go show it, right? And, like, go, especially if it's especially if it's just him playing on the franchise tag this season and not having a long-term deal done yet. Like, that this becomes a, hey, bro, this is all on you. Go show it. You do it, I think there's going to be a lot of teams that will line up to give you the money that you want at this point.
Well, let me say this. Sitting on an NFL sideline, there have been two guys that blew past me. I felt the speed. One was Alvin Kamara. He blew past me so fast, I felt the wind. And the other guy was Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I said, this should not be a quarterback. This is unbelievable. This is unfair. So if you can find a way to keep him healthy, let him play his game, and get the passing game going with these elite weapons, everyone else has a problem in the AFC and in the NFL.
Hey, DeMarco, before I let you go, where exactly are the Rams at this point? Like, you know, whatever the answer is, they won a Super Bowl, so who the hell cares, right? Like, and I really mean that. Like, whatever the cost is of that, you do it because you won a Super Bowl, and that's the point of all of this. But, you know, there were rumors swirling about them being interested in moving on from Matt Stafford, and obviously they don't really have the picks at this point to add in a whole lot of high-level guys. Like, where are the Rams? Is there still a belief that, like, hey, yeah, but we still have Matt Stafford, we still have Cooper Kupp, we still have Aaron. Like, the window is very much still open for L.A., even if they're starting to have to pay the penalty for some of the moves they made.
I'd say next frame. You ever bowl?
Yes.
You have a bad frame, you leave a few pins out there, and then the machine comes out and wipes the pins off and gives you a fresh set.
Yeah.
That's where they're at. You still have Sean McVay, one of the best innovators, offensive genius, which means he's a defensive genius. He knows what you're doing. You still have him. You have Cooper Kupp coming back, who's healthy, and Aaron Donald on the opposite side.
Yep.
So you've got some pieces. It's not the end of the world, and Matthew Stafford. Don't let me forget about him.
Yep.
That's the most important piece. So you still have a lot of good weapons. You're just going to have to build and start from scratch with those those superstars around your football team.
By the way, that's not a bad place. If that's your floor, that's not a bad floor to have. Like, there are a lot of teams that are in worse situations than having those dudes on the field. At DeMarco Farr 1 on Twitter is how you follow him. DeMarco, is there anything I can plug for you, my friends?
No, we just did Easter. All good.
Hey, man.
And wish my softball team luck. How about that? We're in the playoffs.
Wait. Like, are you playing softball or are you coaching softball?
No, my daughter. She's
Your daughter,
it's 8U, 800.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good luck. What's the name of the team?
Snow cones.
Go Snow Cones. We are big snow cone guys around here. We're gonna
From here to Baltimore, baby. From here to Baltimore.
The love is there. DeMarco, appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on with us for a couple minutes this morning. Always enjoy our conversations.
No problem. Anytime, man. Talk to you soon.
DeMarco Farr, part of the Rams radio broadcast team, obviously a Super Bowl champion in St. Louis. And, you know, some interesting stuff in there about Odell Beckham, the teammate. We had been attempting to reach out to a couple of guys who had played with Odell Beckham in the past this morning or coached Odell Beckham. And, you know, unfortunately, it's a Monday morning after a holiday. Like, we kind of knew that we might be struggling to track everybody down this morning. But, you know, there's some real positive things in there. And clearly Lamar Jackson likes the guy. Like, that part matters as long as Lamar Jackson is the quarterback, which, again, I think there's a 90% chance of at this point. But a lot of things in there from that conversation that you can take as positives. Again, we still need to see, like, DeMarco Farr is more inclined to say it wasn't that Odell Beckham was on the decline at that point in his career. It's that Odell Beckham was in a disastrous situation. And once you got him out of that, he could be Odell Beckham, at least that version of Odell Beckham, you know, the 8th year in your NFL career version of Odell Beckham at that point. Now the Ravens are trying to get the 10th year version of Odell Beckham, which, again, I said earlier, even a marginalized version of Odell Beckham is still an upgrade on what the Ravens have been getting at that position. I'll take the 10th-year version of Odell Beckham. I don't think I'm getting the second-year version of Odell Beckham. Of course, Odell Beckham was such a revelation when he began his career because, he was. It didn't take him any time. As a rookie, he was already a superstar. I don't think that guy's showing up again. But the 10th-year version of that, I still think can be helpful. And DeMarco Farr, based on what they saw in that postseason from Odell Beckham, is also of the belief that that guy can be helpful. And I'll take that. That's all I need right now is helpful.
Yeah.
And that, to me, goes back to it damn well should not change your draft strategy. I don't need helpful in the draft. I need game changer if that guy is to be had. I'll take a game changer in another position. I just need game changers. I need true difference makers.
Yeah. I'm just really excited because, this is really – I feel like this is like the best news that the Ravens have had and the Ravens fans have gotten in almost like 6 months, like since November when they were
we'd
winning
say it's just kind of all been downhill from
yes.
there.
Yeah.
I hear you, but I just want to measure that. Right,
yes, I get that.
I have said for a long time, we are very guilty in this city of – we've heard of person like celebrating Vladimir Guerrero signing with the Orioles or Jim Thome being traded for because we've heard of them. We are very guilty of that. That like we've heard of you, so you're a big deal. I remember there was I couldn't tell you what year it was. I can't believe I remembered all the details of the Derek Fisher, Tim Duncan.
Well done,
Jesus Christ.
We'll clip it later.
74-73. It's this horrible basketball game, and yet it's remembered eternally.
Basketball.
No, it's
defense.
not. Yeah, sure.
Come on.
Yeah, a little bit of that. There was a little bit of defense involved. But my point being, there was an offseason where the Ravens signed Walt Harris, Ken Hamlin, Mark Bulger, and Shane Graham later in the offseason. Like they were dominoes that fell within like days of each other. And I just remember Drew and I doing a show one morning and like everybody calling in like, well, this proves the Ravens are all in or they're trying. And I was like, because you've heard of these guys? Because you've heard of Mark Bulger, who, again, wasn't going to be the quarterback, was the backup quarterback to Joe Flacco. I believe of the four of them, like one ever even played in Baltimore. One of Ken Hamlin or Walt Harris, like, took a snap. But Walt Harris had been a Pro Bowler, I want to say. Ken Hamlin had been with the Cowboys, so he was well known. Shane Graham was a qualified kicker that couldn't win the job against, I want to say, Steve Hauschka. I believe Steve Hauschka beat him out for the job, if I remember correctly.
Professional kicker.
And he did end up having a hell of a career. You're right. It's the funny part, right? Steve Hauschka was cut by the Ravens because after he missed that kick in Minnesota, but went on to have a good career. Well, the Ravens found a great kicker afterwards, Billy Cundiff.
Yeah, he was great for.
He was. People forget that he was nails for the first season, and now he's now he's one of the most hated men in Baltimore sports history. But I just remember those phone calls that week and like losing my mind on the air, like screaming.
Yeah.
This is what you think changes? Now they're trying to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah,
because of this?
I understand I need to be measured, but it is really this is a guy, like, he was on my phone case when I was in high school.
I think we're guilty of that.
Yeah.
Des Bryant was on people's phone case. Like, there are other guys the Ravens have brought in. Like, I don't know if you remember, Deshaun Jackson was a superstar in the league. We got to remember that we got to be fair about it. What I'm giving is that I think it's more possible that Odell Beckham has something quality left to give the Ravens than it was with Des Bryant or it was with Deshaun Jackson, who were literally past retirement by the time they ended up joining the Ravens. I think it's a better signing than those signings were. I'm not trying to say it, but we do have to be measured in how we look at it. We are getting the 10-year-in version of Odell Beckham. If you are believing that Odell Beckham is going to be, this guy again, we should all attempt to do our Odell Beckham catches.
I gotta find my old phone case and see if I can.
We should all. I'm telling you, we should go over to like the trampoline park because they got a big blob at the trampoline park, and we should all attempt to do Odell Beckham. Like we should turn that into a contest of some sort. If that's the guy you think is showing up here, I think you're setting yourself up for major disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
If the Ravens believe that's what they're getting.
That's kind of what I'm
Yeah.
The other thing is that, he was supposed to meet with New York today, and the Ravens said, no, you're not. We're going to figure this out.
Whatever the number is, we're going to make it happen.
That excites me too. It comes back to that. We would say in Ozzie we trust. If the Ravens really believe that this guy still has something left to offer.
But there's a big difference between has something left to offer and they, for the first time, want to put together a 4 to 5 man wide receiver core. Like, I don't know how if they still believe that Duvernay is a factor, they still think they can get something out of Prochet, whatever it is, and they're willing to draft another wide receiver on top of that, and they want to put together a real wide receiver room, which is something that's never existed in Baltimore. Ravens have been able to have 2. That's been the limit, and even that has been fleeting. There has been a strict policy in Baltimore. You may have 2 wide receivers.
They had 3 1 year, and they won the Super Bowl.
Even that was sort of a fluke. They had 2 in a returner who proved to be more helpful as a receiver that year than anybody could have ever expected. But going into the year, they didn't put together 3 wide receivers. They had 2 wide receivers and a return man. It turned out that return man was super helpful at wide receiver that year. It just nobody could have seen it coming.
You mentioned that's the other biggest news is that James Prochet won't have to wear number 3 anymore. So that's
get out. Stop.
Thank God.
Stop.
That's the best. That's the best news really from yesterday.
It's very silly. Now you're just being a silly goose. Very silly goose over here, this Griffin. All right, we've done all the Odell Beckham today. We'll still talk Odell Beckham throughout the course of the week, and obviously that's a big story. That's the way that it goes. I was preparing to send Griffin a list of other things to work on for this week, and instead I scratched that and said, let's do nothing but Odell Beckham on Monday. And Ken Francis, of course, which was planned ahead of time. Today's show also brought to you by Birdland Sports. Oh, do we need a winner from last week?
Yes, I have them. I need to message.
Very good.
Yeah.
You need to message.
I do need to message.
All right, we're 5 days behind on that.
I understand.
That's not. It needs to get done. Get to birdlandsports.com. Take advantage of all of the very cool T-shirt offers they have. I know, 4 and 5, it don't feel great right now, but if you're still bullish, get this 2023 World Series Champions T-shirt. That one is, in fact, if you're that bullish, you can get it for $10 right now at birdlandsports.com. On sale for $10. This T-shirt right here in my hands is available for $10 at birdlandsports.com. So go get it right now. Price is better than the big guys. Quality remains the same, and a lot of really cool concepts available. birdlandsports.com. We'll come back in. We'll get a tidbit and tubular to wind it down for a Monday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Harford Community College in Bel Air, Maryland, along with the National Junior College Athletic Association's Region 20, will host the 2023 NJCAA Men's Lacrosse National Championship May 13th and 14th at Harford Sports Complex, 401 Thomas Run Road in Bel Air. Semifinals are on Saturday, May 13th. The National Championship is Sunday, May 14th. Catch the action for $10 each day. Tickets will be available in advance or at the gate on game day. Qualifying teams will be announced.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson profiles Orioles phenom Gunnar Henderson, breaking down how he was able to become the top prospect in baseball at such a young age, and what could be next in his first full MLB season. Also inside, we meet lacrosse players from the men's and women's college programs across the state, and Bo Smoka breaks down another year of wide receiver issues for the Ravens. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Stan the Fan here, welcoming back one of my favorite sponsors, the Costas Inn. And everybody around Baltimore knows the Costas Inn is a great place to go and grab crabs, steaks, salads, soups, whatever's on your mind to eat in person. But did you know that the Costas Inn has upped their game? They are now one of the premier takeout places in Baltimore. Give them a call now to order your food, 410-477-1975. That's the Costas Inn over 4100 North Point Boulevard.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
Check out PressBoxOnline.com every day to find daily winners and betting advice from Jeremy Conn. And if you want some advice about life decisions that you probably shouldn't make, here's Glenn Clark.
All right, winding down for a Monday edition of the program, PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball season, I can't believe, every time I read this, I say to myself, that's not right, is it? Because it feels like we've been able to bet on sport. No, this is the first time ever that you can bet on your phone. And, in fact, I did it on Friday. When we got to the game, I was hanging out with Rita and her boyfriend and our friend Cordell from 105.7 The Fan. And Rita's boyfriend.
Betting every pitch?
Rita's boyfriend is a Yankees fan. And I really like him,
sat with
which
him?
is the problem. That's the problem. I really like her boyfriend a lot. Like, we're very cool. He's a great dude. Everybody, he's been out to some of our events. He's just a wonderful person. But he's a Yankees fan. And he looked at me before the game began, and he was like, bro, you bet anything today? I was like, no, I haven't. But I'm always interested. He said, yo, just do a straight money line bet on the Orioles. Just do that. And I was like, yeah? Well, why? He said, you ever seen Clark Schmidt? I said, have not. He said, trust me. Do a straight money line bet on the Orioles. Got a little hairy there. Got a little hairy for a minute. But for the first time ever, I was able to win a bet on my phone betting baseball because that is available. So many great offers, incentives are available at PressBoxOnline.com/offers. You can get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet from DraftKings, but you can only do it by going to PressBoxOnline.com/offers. You have to go to that link and then click on the DraftKings logo, and that will get you there. Again, PressBoxOnline.com/offers. All right. Is there anything that we didn't cover today that we need to cover before we get to tidbit and tubular? Is there anything that we didn't get into during the course of the Well, we didn't really. We didn't cover most things. I mean, like, I briefly said the Kyle Stowers thing is frustrating, but, like, I don't really have anything else to say about it. I think that we're good. Did we I'm trying to remember what we did on Friday. Oh, a lot of people were reacting to Dwayne Simpkins.
Oh, yeah.
Suggesting there could be a feeder program kind of between Maryland and American, which I enjoyed. We do know that Maryland needs another assistant coach because Grant Billmeyer left for NJIT, so we'll see how they go about filling that role. Nothing new on the transfer front. We didn't get any news this weekend either on like the Dante Scott one is the really weird one, right? That like he hasn't announced anything at all. Like we're pretty deep in this process for him to not have announced.
Unless he wants to, I don't know.
I don't like if you're just gonna explore the portal, like go explore the portal. You know what I mean? Like, it's just odd to me. That's odd that we haven't. They did land a transfer this weekend. Chance Stevens was his name from Loyola Marymount out in California. Is supposed to be an outside shooter, which I think if you watched last year, you know that Maryland needs.
More of those.
Way more of that. Way more outside shooting. But I don't know that he's a lethal outside shooter. I think he goes by Sniper, if I remember correctly. I saw that on his Instagram, and I was like, all right,
good.
That sounds good. But he shot 37.4% from three-point land last season. I'd take that.
Helpful.
I'd take that.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat, I'd take that. So we will see. It is weird. The more I think about it, the longer we've gone in this process without anybody saying anything about Dante Scott. Nothing. We don't know anything about it at all. All right. Tidbit is brought to you today by A.J. Michaels. Expert and award-winning A.J. Michaels Heating, AC, Plumbing, and Home Performance will improve your home's energy efficiency and comfort levels. AC season is coming up fast. New rebates and discounts are available. More at ajmichaels.com.
All right, so I'll start with the bit of a tidbit that I got for you. So somebody had a Bam Adebayo
hit a Orioles money line winner on Friday.
That was you. This is
me.
you. This is about you.
Me.
Bam Adebayo, Jaylen
I
Brown.
think I won $20. I wasn't really all that heavy on it.
To make the first basket in their respective matchups on, I think, Wednesday night or Thursday night last week. And then they also they added Brooks Koepka to win the Masters to this bet.
Well, that's heartbreaking.
Yes, it would have been $5. They bet $5 to pay out like $60K. But Glenn, they cashed out.
God bless.
Cashed out for like
Smart.
15K.
Well
right
done.
before Koepka blew the lead.
Stole that money, man. Stole it. Oh, that feels even better at that point.
John Rahm did go on to win. He double bogeyed his very first hole of the tournament. So
yes.
a 4-putt
and
double
I did see that he blamed Zach Ertz.
He did?
Yes.
What did Zach Ertz
He
do?
blamed Zach. Apparently, Zach Ertz texted him before the. Apparently, Zach Ertz and then J.J. Watt. They have like a group text apparently, and Zach Ertz right before the round began texted him something about. Oh God, I gotta pull it up because the text was funny. It was like, looks like this was looks like the first green is easy today or something like that. And it screwed. Hang on, I'll pull up JJ. Here we go. So the first text was from Zach Ertz. Let's have a day, John. Start fast. Then J.J. Watt text. Let's go, John. Pretend you're playing with Zach and I. You'll set the course record. Zach Ertz says, first hole green looks like a walk in the park.
4 putts. Four putts.
And John Rahm brought it up in the press conference after winning the Masters yesterday.
No thanks to Zach Ertz.
Correct.
He became the second player ever to win the tournament after double bogeying their very first hole. He joins this man who won the tournament in 1952, Sam Snead.
Okay. I mean, actually would have been high on the list of people that I would have guessed, for the record, yeah.
Sam Snead is who he joins John Rahm as he wins the Masters. Jordan Walker, the 20-year-old phenom for the Cardinals, is on a nice hit streak to begin his career. 9 games, has a 9-game hitting streak. He's tied for the second best ever to start their career.
How about that?
Do you think you can name who he's tied with?
Are you serious?
1939.
Oh, if you had said 1939, I definitely. It's Nap LaJoy.
No, it's not Nap LaJoy.
It's is it somebody significant?
It is somebody
Mickey
significant.
Mantle.
Not Mickey Mantle.
Joe DiMaggio?
No.
Ted Williams.
Yeah.
Ted Williams.
Ted Williams. 1939.
Yeah, DiMaggio would have been. My years are a little bit off on that.
Since 1900, so he is chasing this man who started their career with a 12-game hit streak at age 20 or younger. 1912, Eddie Murphy.
Oh, sure. Oh, before he did all those movies.
Yeah. Before he was talking like donkey. He set the MLB record for longest hit streak to start their career.
That was exactly who I was thinking it was.
All right, and now the Ravens did add Odell Beckham Jr. I'm gonna use a tidbit. I think it was like the first tidbit I think I actually did. And I want to see if you can name the best Ravens receiver in their first year with the team in terms of receiving yards.
I want to say it's something random like Mike Wallace. Like I want to say
not Mike Wallace.
In the first season with the team.
I want to see if you can name the top 10 guys most yards in their first season with the Ravens.
Top 10. And Mike Wallace isn't in the top 10?
Hold on, let me pull it up real quick. Mike Wallace was in the top 10. Yes. He had 1,017.
Yeah.
One of 6 receivers to get 1,000 yards in their first
I can't believe there were 6. Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, number 5 on the list. Wallace at 6, Steve Smith at 5.
Proctor wants Bolden.
Anquan Bolden did not crack the top. Or yes, he did. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, he didn't have 1,000. I know he didn't have 1,000.
He was number 8 on this list, 837.
Does this include rookies or?
Yes, it does.
So Torrey Smith.
Torrey Smith, right ahead of Bolden, 841 the following year in 2011.
Now, okay, how about so does this list include Michael Jackson and Derek Alexander?
It does.
That's
I did include it. You don't want to include it? We can.
I mean,
we can bump them off.
well, you already made the list. So
they're both top 3.
Yes, of course they would be, but they weren't actually new wide receivers. They had both played for the franchise the previous year. It's just that the team moved.
Yeah.
So that's why
cross them off.
You already put them on the list.
I mean, I have the rest of the list, so I can.
Okay, it's fine.
Not Michael Jackson then.
No, it's fine.
He's number 1, 1,200.
Yes, and Derek Alexander.
Derek Alexander had 1,100 in 1996, so that's 1 and 3 right there.
I can't believe there's someone else who had Kadri.
It is Kadri.
Yeah,
Kadri Ismail, 1,105, 1999.
It's hilarious to me how people have just because you don't associate those Ravens with offense. Like people have so forgotten how good Kadri Ismail is. Also because he's hung here and he's on TV and he's been it's just easily forgotten how bloody good Kadri Ismail was. Yeah, Proctor Mason would have been behind. Yeah, Mason.
Mason is 4th on this list, 1,073 back in 05.
We're missing the last two.
We are missing the last two.
Yeah, so Hollywood Brown's a good guess. Let's go
Hollywood Brown just outside of the top 10 here.
No.
He is 13th, 584 as a rookie.
Now I got to start thinking of random guys like Kevin Johnson.
Not Kevin Johnson.
Rashad Bateman.
Not Rashad Bateman. Bateman had... Where is Bateman? He's not in the top 10.
All right. And they're all specifically wide receivers.
No.
Okay.
Bateman had 515. He's like in the around 20.
How about Todd Heap?
Not Todd Heap.
He got hurt, didn't he?
Yeah, he only had 200 in 2001.
Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp, he is 9th on this list, 810 in the year 2000.
Are there any other tight ends on the list?
No.
Is the last one? Last one's another wide receiver.
Pretty random.
Random. Mark Clayton.
Not Mark Clayton. Clayton had 471 in 05. He's 21st.
How about it's pretty random, you say? Pretty random.
Semi-recent, but
yet pretty random.
Yeah, there was I don't want to give it away yet.
Semi-recent and pretty random. And how many yards?
He had 715 yards in his first year as a Raven.
Willie Snead?
Not Willie Snead. He had 651. He's 11th, though. Willie Snead's 11th. Right behind this guy.
John Brown.
John Brown had 715 yards and cracks the top 10. Most yards as their first year as a Raven.
Called him.
Mm-hmm.
John Brown.
And then Michael Crabtree, the same wide receiver, the third wide receiver they brought in that 2018 class, had 607. He's 12th on the list.
How about that? All right, very good.
And Mark Andrews had 552, also came in 2018. Rounds out the top 15.
Tidbit was also brought to you today by the print issue of Press Box, which is only available. This is the final week for this issue before it's gone. Daddy gone. The love is gone. Gunnar Henderson is on the cover. Go get it right now for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms. Tubular, brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Tonight, Athletics Orioles. By the way, don't be caught off guard. 6:30, 6:35 for first pitch.
I mean, games can be over around 9.
Don't screw this up and say, I tuned in at 7. 6:30. That's the new deal. I think until school lets out. Once school lets out, I think they do go back to 7 o'clock. But until school lets out, 6:35 first pitch for tonight for the first time as the Orioles host the Athletics. J.P. Sears and Kyle Gibson, the pitching matchup. Masson 2, Nationals Angels at 9:30. MLB Network, White Sox Twins at 2, Padres Mets at 7. NBC Sports Washington, Islanders Capitals at 7. The Capitals will not be making the playoffs this year. Final week of the NHL regular season. ESPN Plus and Hulu for Maple Leafs Panthers at 7. ESPN, the WNBA Draft. Of course, Diamond Miller will go very early in the WNBA Draft. That's 7 o'clock. It's Aaliyah Boston will be the number 1 pick in the WNBA Draft. I think there's thought that Diamond Miller could be number 2.
I think that's correct.
I believe. Let me just double. Yeah, currently ESPN.com's mock draft has Aaliyah Boston at 1 and Diamond Miller at number 2. So I want to say there's somebody else. There's another relevant local play. Whatever. That's a conversation for another day. But Diamond Miller will go very early on. Oh, Taylor Mikesell, who played in Baltimore, or not in Baltimore, played at Maryland before she transferred to Ohio State, is expected. And Abby Myers. That's who I was trying to think of. Abby Myers also expected to go tonight during the course of the WNBA draft. Again, 7 o'clock for the WNBA draft. It's on ESPN. Then they have Wild Blackhawks at 9. And the USA Network for WWE Monday Night Raw at 8 o'clock. Some non-sports highlights?
Really not a whole lot. Brian Cox will be on Colbert along with Kerry Russell.
Quite significant after last night. Quite
if
significant.
You say so. James Corden's going to have Bryan Cranston and Brett Goldstein.
Of course, yes. From Ted
Roy
Lasso.
Kent. And then
Not Bryan Cranston. He's not from
Yeah,
Ted
Bryan
Lasso, but yes.
Apparently he was at the Circa last week. I don't know.
Okay.
With Aaron Paul. Like, I don't know.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wait, at the Circa?
Yeah,
at
the
like in
Circa.
Vegas?
Yeah.
Where Aaron works?
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do?
I don't know.
Why'd you tell me that then?
Well, I saw it. I looked up trying to look up why Bryan Cranston's going on, and that was the first thing that popped up.
I hung out with Aaron Paul once. I've told that
Wow.
story a few times in New York. He
Why
enjoyed.
didn't he invite you?
He and Kid Cudi did the show when they were promoting whatever terrible movie they were promoting. I mean, maybe
Aaron Paul, Kid Cudi had to be a good movie.
I think it was Need. They did a film version of Need for Speed, if I remember correctly, was what it was, and they enjoyed it so much that Aaron Paul came back around later in the day because they were making their rounds. He grabs
Glenn
me,
Clark in his life.
and he was like, "Hey, bro, that was really great, man. Like I did all these all day. Yours was the most fun that I did all day." And I was like, "Wow, Aaron Paul, this was the dirty secret. I wasn't even watching Breaking Bad at that point. I didn't start Breaking Bad for like another couple of years after that. But like, he was great, right?
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, he was great. I mean, we just had fun, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing the show with James Ahedigbo, the former Baltimore Raven. He had come up to co-host the show with me that week in New York for the Super Bowl. So like they were all trying on his Super Bowl ring. Like it was just the whole thing was fun. And he said like to James and I, if you guys don't have nothing going on tonight, we're going to be at this rooftop if you want to come over and hang out. And we were like, okay. James Ahedigbo was like, and he didn't watch Breaking Bad either, but Kid Cudi was a big deal to him. So we're like, all right, we'll go over. Like, absolutely. So we went over and we thought like they weren't going to be there, like that we had got bamboozled. And then we got up there and they were just literally sitting at a bar, like on a rooftop, and we hung out. We had a couple beers, and then we parted ways. I don't think that James did. I don't think he drank.
I thought you said then we partied hard.
No.
No.
I mean, it was nice. It was really cool. Like he was awesome, man. Like I regret that I wasn't watching. Maybe it was better because maybe I would have been too fanboyish.
Yeah,
if I had been watching Breaking Bad at the time. But like this was when they were at the height of their stardom, and it was also Kid Cudi, who's dope. You know what I mean? Like I love Kid Cudi, so it was great. It was really really cool, man. It was one of my favorite experiences I've ever had.
Only other thing, Kimmel's going to have Jeremy Renner and Metallica on.
Wait, Jeremy Renner, so he's good? Like
yeah. Okay, he's got a new show coming out on Disney Plus, I think Wednesday.
Okay.
It's called Renovations.
But is it about?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's like they're taking decommissioned government vehicles and like building them up into something cool and then donating them back to kids.
That's a different thing altogether. But he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, because he did that interview.
That was I know, but
week.
like I didn't know if he was like fully okay or
I mean,
just
I guess
like
we'll find out tonight.
That's what I'm.
Comes out to. All right, it comes out to Kimmel. Everybody got to tune into Kimmel.
All right, very good. I guess because he's doing a Disney Plus show, that's why he's done a bunch of ABC stuff. I guess that makes sense. All right, very good. Thanks today to Ken Francis. You be the judge. That's all I'll leave that with. Thanks also to DeMarco Farr, to Brian
He's holding something
McFarland.
back.
I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I said some other things to Griffin off the air, but I'll choose to keep them off the air. Thanks to Jeremy Conn. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Anything?
Farr and
I said DeMarco
you did?
Farr.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian McFarland and Jeremy Conn. Yes, I said all that. Anything tomorrow?
Stuff and things.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Who knows? Thanks to everybody at Pressbox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including AJ Michaels, Glory Days Grill, Royal Farms, Costas Inn, Hartford Community College, Guilford Hall Brewery, Birdland Sports, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin. Follow him on Twitter at Griffin_Bass. Follow us Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great Monday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks.